constitutional rights. Raise the next generation of patriots. Use your skills to save lives. Protect those closest to you. Create an award-winning cinnamon roll recipe. You can be a cute servant.
Good morning, everybody. So a couple of announcements and then a speaker who's much more important than I am, I can tell you that much. So first, tomorrow when I speak, I'm going to be taking nothing but questions. So I want you to submit your questions through the portal that we have set up. You can also email them to us, freedom@charliekirk.com. And then also we're going to have a line of questions tomorrow. And so I know some of you have travel plans, but that's what we're going to be doing tomorrow and during the speaking time that we have when I'm supposed to be up on stage. Also, there are some amazing friendships that are being made here over the last couple days. And some young ladies came here by themselves. And we talked about this last night at the banquet. And that's really a step of faith. That is saying, hey, I like these speakers. I want to come and meet some new people. And if you have met a couple friends, or maybe you came here with some friends, or maybe you're a Turning Point USA chapter leader, here's my call to action for you. Go find one of those young ladies that might have just come by themselves and introduce yourself and try to make a friend and try to just say, hey, I see that you're here. Come hang out with my friends. Because one of the most important things that happens from this conference is obviously hearing from your heroes, getting amazing ideas, hopefully getting fired up to want to do something on your high school or college campus, but it's the friendships that really matter. And so I just want to encourage you, and I want to challenge you to go find one or two new people, and you might be seeing them come in, and you say, hey, that person seems to be entering and exiting by themselves for the last couple days. Go introduce yourself. And that's a really, really important thing. Go outside of your comfort zone, and maybe you are one of those people that came here by yourself. You're like, hey, I want to meet a couple people. Then go introduce yourself to our staff. Go find Isabel Brown. Go find Alex Clark. Go find anyone with a Turning Point USA staff badge and say, look, I'm just striking out. I haven't found anyone that I really have clicked yet with. We want to introduce you to that friend group. We really do. That's an important thing that we want to do here at Turning Point USA to make sure that you get those bonds that last a lifetime. So there's been a lot of, thank you, yes. So there's been a lot of talk the last couple days about building families and getting married. And on May 8th, I got married, or we got married, I guess you could say. And it was without a doubt the best day of my life. And I am so honored to be able to introduce my wife, someone that all of you, I think, should look up to in a variety of different ways. I know I do. So please join me in welcoming my wife, Erika Kirk.
The mattress that you stole from your roommate back in Boulder. We ain't ever getting older.
Love you.
We ain't ever getting older.
Good morning. Oh my gosh. I get the confetti. I love Lauren. Where is she? Turning Point USA is phenomenal. I have to say it is such an honor to be able to see my husband and his whole team come together, whether that's Lauren, Tyler, Troy, my husband, Stacy, Emma, everyone. The whole team is phenomenal. So thank you all for being here. All the first timers, thank you for joining us. I feel so blessed to have this opportunity to be on stage. For those of you who have no idea who I am, my name is Erika Kirk, formerly Franzwe. I just hung up that jersey about a month ago, which is pretty exciting. It's been the best month of my life, being married to my best friend. But quick Spark Notes version of who I am, so you guys know kind of a context of me. I've been in the entertainment industry since I was 13 years old. I've been behind the camera, in front of the camera, from being a model, an actress, host. I've been a casting director for different TV networks. And I've lived all over the world. I played basketball in college. I have my Juris Master in American Legal Studies. I'm currently getting my Doctorate of Education in Christian Leadership. And I also have a clothing line, luxury streetwear clothing line called Proclaim Streetwear. Yes, we are unapologetically Christian, and yes, we are made in the USA. I also have a podcast called Midweek Rise Up, and then I have a ministry called Proclaim and Lead Ministry, and we put on Bible in 365. I know some of my girls are actually here. So thank you guys so much. But when I was really praying on what to talk about with you guys, there was just this one word that God just kept putting on my heart. And I could have gone the route of talking about being a Christian in the secular world. I could have gone the route of balancing faith and politics and just having relationships. And he just kept putting this one word. And I thought to myself, here we are at the Young Women's Leadership Summit. And I really thought to myself, what is the one word that absolutely destroys leadership, authentic leadership? The one word, especially for women today, and the word that completely steals away your focus from building. Whether that's you building a family, building a career, building a ministry, a word that totally steals from the God-sized opportunities that are placed in front of you, especially when you're pursuing your calling. And it makes you confuse activity with productivity. And that word is comparison. And in a history, like the history of everything, I was like, okay, Charlie and I love digging into words and the meaning of them and the history of them. And so I'm fascinated with the breakdown of it, and I had to share this with you guys because obviously we know what the word comparison is. It means to make equal to compare. And quick history rundown. Who loves history? Great. Okay, good. So quick history rundown. This word was originally spoken of, if you could say that, in the mid-14th century. So I don't know if any of you guys know what was going on in the 14th century, but let's do a quick history rundown. The early portion of the 14th century, you had the church power in decline. There was so much drama in the Catholic Church. Everyone was deciding who the next pope was going to be. Any Braveheart fans? Yeah. So William Wallace of Scotland, he was captured during that time. You have the beginning of the 100 Years' War. And then in the middle of the 14th century, does anyone know what happened? No? I heard someone say it. The bubonic plague happened in the mid-14th century when this word came about, which is fascinating to me because you have the Black Plague going through France, Denmark, Norway, Britain, devastating a population that was weakened by nearly 2 generations of being malnourished. And everyone was blaming someone else. You had people blaming the Catholic Church, you had people blaming the rich, you had people saying that this was the judgment of God, you had witchcraft that was being revitalized, and it was absolute mayhem. And then all of a sudden, 10 years later, what happened? The plague came through again. And everyone had it wasn't as bad the second wave, but the reason why I say that is because it's fascinating that this one word that completely destroys and throws us off track is also a word that in some ways rhymes with the history and what we're going through today. And it's dangerous to want to be someone or something that you're not. To perform, to impress, to strive to be equal to another broken human. I find it absolutely intriguing, the act of comparing yourself to another person, because truly, how well do you know that person that you're comparing yourself to? Sure, you see their highlight reel on social media, you see their outward appearance, but do you ever see their reality? More oftentimes than not, we don't. And it's almost like the act of comparison. You're creating this fake illusion of jealousy that doesn't even exist. And I have watched firsthand this one single word destroy some of the most talented people in their industry. And it doesn't matter what age you are, what demographic. Like I said, I've been in the entertainment industry since I was 13. I've been a business owner since I was 17, and it doesn't matter if you're walking across the stage for Miss USA or if you're in a boardroom, comparison bleeds into all of it. And to think that the girl sitting next to you is your comparison, is your competition. It's so unhealthy. Your DNA sequence was not a mistake at all. And comparison is a double-edged sword. There's no winning. Either it makes you feel absolutely superior because you're putting someone else down, or it makes you totally inferior because you're putting someone else down. And the prideful side of comparison is just as ugly, especially as we scroll through social media and the back and forth can go from envy to pride in a matter of seconds. But as I reflected more on a macro level of the word comparison, I wanted to share with you all today ways to combat comparison in leadership, relationships, and seasons of your life, especially in a boss babe culture. And let me tell you something. I know my husband touched on this yesterday. I love saying husband. I love being married. The boss babe culture is so unbelievably toxic. Absolutely toxic. And if you're a Christian, it is completely antithetical to the gospel. And if you're not a Christian, it's just as toxic for your lifestyle. As Charlie and I stood on the altar, I didn't realize how toxic that boss babe world was until when I got married. And it really put everything into perspective. We're standing on the altar, and you're literally creating the most amazing covenant with God. And it's one of those things where we felt like we had a complete baptism, like a total renewal. It was unbelievable. It was so beautiful and it was so pure. And it put into perspective for me. The man and the woman are made for one another. They are to be mutual comforts and blessings. Not one is a slave and not one is a tyrant. So many people completely manipulate and take out of context Ephesians 5, where it talks about women and wives are to submit to their husbands. And that's a whole other speech for another day. But when I lived in New York City for the past 6 years, and Charlie was absolutely right about this, the women that were in their late 20s and early 30s were absolutely miserable. Absolutely miserable. And they were so frustrated. And you could see them on the subway, and they had this look on their face of just irritability. And to me, I thought it was fascinating because they're like chasing after the next job title, the next opportunity, rather than building something that will last and something that was beautiful. And the thing that I think is really funny is that they almost teach you in New York City and larger cities like that when you're in the corporate world, you don't need a man. Why would you need a man? Go after the corporate route. You don't need a baby. Your work is your baby. Why would you need a baby? You don't need a husband. You could have a work husband. You just leave him at the office at 5 p.m. once you clock out. Why do you need a husband? This is your job. This is what you were supposed to do. This is why you went to college, so you could get this job opportunity. But don't get me wrong, I'm not at all saying that it's bad to be a female entrepreneur. I'm not. I had the honor and blessing of being raised by an incredible mother, single mother, working mother, who still has the glass on her shoulders from all the ceilings that she broke through. Isn't that right, Mama? Yeah. I love you. But what I'm saying is people try to attach the boss babe label to a positive work mode mindset that tricks you into thinking that you're actually building something, and you're not. You're actually doing the opposite. You're falling into alignment with the secular world's agenda to distract you from what you should be building as a female. You're getting distracted with the comparison and the competition rather than focusing on the blessings, the opportunities, and the skills that God wants you to seize, that He wants you to redeem, develop, and grow. So you have a choice. You can be a boss babe that has the look-alike everything, the same talking points, the same Instagram filters, the same grid outline. Or you can be the strong woman that God has created you to be. I'm still crying because my mom, I love her. But if no one else tells you this, I wish someone would have told me this when I was in Manhattan in LA, when I was in the middle of the rat race. Yes, it's okay to be a business owner. It is, and it's okay to pursue your career. But when the season comes to transition, it's okay to be a mother. It's okay to be happily married. It's okay to have a relationship without insane amounts of drama to tell your friends about it. It's okay to be able to enjoy cooking for your family and enjoy being there for your family. It's okay to change your last name once you're married. It's okay to be a woman, a real woman, a Proverbs 31 woman. It's okay. The woman that God needs you to be for your family and for your husband that he is preparing you for. It's okay. Not everyone's meant to be a female entrepreneur. Not everyone is meant to be an influencer. Hear me when I say that. It's okay if you want to take a sabbatical from Instagram and social media. Your life is not defined by that. Not everyone is meant to sell oils and shampoo. I'm sorry if you sell oils and shampoo, but not everyone's meant to do that. But you all have your own race to run and your own lane to occupy. So run your race, but please honor your speed and your stride. And I know that many of you who are runners, this might resonate with you. I ran track in high school. By no means am I the best runner. Let me tell you, the only reason why I was running was to stay in shape for basketball. And if I'm running, it's usually because someone's chasing me, so it's not like voluntary. And so we had a coach on our track team. He was in his mid-70s. Bless his heart, you would have thought that he was training this high school track team for the Olympics. And he was so intense. He had the most blunt way about explaining things. And so we're getting ready for our regional match, and we're all huddling around him for the 200 relay, which I loathed the 200 relay because it was 100 meters too long. And so we're standing there and he's like, everyone huddle. So we lean in like intently. He's like, okay, these girls are a lot faster than you. And you guys are like down here, they're up here. Great. Yeah, he was phenomenal. He goes, but I'll tell you 3 things, super raspy voice. I'll tell you 3 things that you can do in order for you to win this race. So we're all leaning in super intently. He said, do not look to the side of you. Stay in your lane. And run the race. 3 very simple things. Look, I know that you guys feel pressure. We all do. All of us do. Whether it's the pressure to fit in, the pressure to be the perfect size, the pressure to have the perfect look, the pressure to perform. I get it. I really do. But real life is messy. And every time you sit there focusing on someone else's race and someone else's life, you are stealing all of that time and robbing it from yourself in your own race. And I hope that you really understand that. And what a waste, what an absolute waste, if when we get to heaven and realize that all of these years that we have been trusting God, we should have been trusting God for his abundance rather than fearing that he wouldn't provide. Because he always provides, always. And God's timing is perfect, so please hear me when I say this, because what is meant for you, all of you young women in this room, as you're going through college and you're going through high school, what is meant for you will not pass you by. It won't. And the only thing, 2 things actually, that comparison will ever strengthen in your life are your insecurities and your fears. Because just because someone else, whether they're sitting next to you or at school or any of your family members, just because they're succeeding doesn't mean that you're failing. It does not mean that you're failing. So you have to break out of that mentality. And the comparison mindset is a cycle. And I have found that the quickest way to break that cycle, when you start feeling it come on, is you have to say something, even if it's out loud, it's a trigger word. You have to say something that you're grateful for. One thing. You can build on it, but just one thing. And once you do that, you'll be able to shift your heart, you'll be able to shift your mindset, and you can focus on things that actually matter. And you can keep your focus on joy, love, peace, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. So instead of following a boss babe culture, I challenge you guys to be an authentic leader. Anyone can start something. I am personally more fascinated and interested in the people that can finish. Those that have a tenacity to push through all of the hard times and actually build something that will outlive themselves. Authentic leadership requires action. I did not create Proclaim Streetwear to be a boss babe. I didn't. I created it as a ministry. I created it as something that could bring good news to the poor and help the brokenhearted through a piece of clothing. That's why I started Proclaim Streetwear. And it's one thing to be serious, but it's also another thing to make sure that you're extremely sincere and authentic in your mission. And a mark of a good leader is someone who has a servant's heart. A leader doesn't hire employees, they hire team members. A leader surrounds themselves with givers, not takers. A leader is courageous while humble, driven while loyal, and fully recognizes that fear is only skin deep. Leaders' goals are smart. They're specific, they're measurable, they're actionable, reachable, and timely. Don't ever expect anyone to understand your drive when God did not give them your vision. And finally, be an authentic leader that keeps commitments, especially to yourself, just as how you hold other people accountable. How many times have you guys gone to lunch with someone, you're sitting there at the table, and then you get a text message maybe 15, 20 minutes in while you're sitting there by yourself, and they're like, hey, I'm so sorry, I have to cancel. It happens to all of us. Now, multiply that by 5 times of you sitting there, and every time that you show up, that person cancels. That's what you do to yourself when you break the commitments that you've created for yourself. When you set goals and you fall off that track, you're doing that to yourself. Which leads me into combating comparison within relationships. First and foremost, the most important relationship in your life is the one that you have with your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. That's the first and foremost, most important relationship. The other 3 important relationships are the ones that you have with your friends, the ones that you have with your family, and of course, your spouse or your dating relationship. And when I asked on Instagram what you guys wanted me to talk about, I cannot tell you how many people have brought up dating. I totally understand why, I get it, and I could talk on this topic for hours, but I'll keep it super simple. If they were meant to stay, they'd stay. Period. You should never have to convince someone to love you. Don't elevate chemistry over commitment, and please, please, please get off the apps. Get off the apps. Do not put your faith in an algorithm instead of the God who actually blessed someone else to create that algorithm. Don't ever do that. And I'm not saying you have to stay home and be a hermit. It's not what I'm saying. It's not what I'm saying at all, but also be realistic. Yes, you can have a non-compromise list, but don't have one that rivals the size of a CVS receipt. You don't need it that long and that cumbersome, but if you're running your race, you're in your stride, God will put someone next to you that's also running alongside you. Someone who's not going to distract you, take your eyes off your finish line. It's going to be someone who compliments you on the way of as you're doing your race. So for those of you who are currently in a dating relationship, you teach people how to treat you. Bottom line. When someone hurts you or leaves you or breaks up with you, you got to let go and you got to move on. You cannot let that hurt define your life. You just have to keep going, and God will remove people from your life if you don't. He sees that. So don't chase after paper and glitter. It's not worth it. And don't just date to date. Please hear me when I say that. Please don't. Date with a purpose. Date with an intention to possibly marry that person. And please, this is another thing that drives me nuts, do not treat your boyfriend like your husband. Do not. There are certain orders and processes that are in place to protect your heart on purpose. And something that I also really would challenge you guys to do is that when you find that person, honor them. They are worthy of waiting for. And once you find that person, or even if it's just you're dating someone, over-communicate. I have never in one time in my life have I ever heard someone say, Erika, I have no idea what you just told me because you over-communicated with me, and I don't understand. I've never had that issue before. Do you think that I had an issue understanding where Charlie stood when he looked at me across Bill's Burgers table and said, I'm not gonna hire you, I'm gonna date you? That is the perfect example of just clear-cut communication. But then touching on friendship, how many of you lost friends in 2020 and 2021 so far? Everyone. Cancel culture, yeah, it is cancer. Cancel culture roller coaster is absolutely exhausting. And who knew that you would lose friends over the type of syrup you'd have, and then having Potato Head becoming some triggered non-binary potato. But choose friends that support you, that you don't have to tiptoe around, friends that don't compare their life to yours. If someone gets into the school of their dreams, great, celebrate them. But don't look at them as something that you're jealous of. Don't focus on their path, focus on yours. Your circle doesn't have to be massive, it has to be loyal. So always be with people who point you back to the truth. That is so important. Don't just have friends for the sake of friends, and choose them wisely. You have 6 months left in 2021, 6 months. So my challenge for you within those 6 months with your friend groups is that if they start talking about other people and gossiping, remove yourself from those conversations. That's not life-giving at all. There's not one good thing that comes out of gossip. It totally betrays confidence, and a trustworthy person will always keep a secret. And my grandma was the best at this. She was the family vault. She had every single secret locked up inside of her, and I was fascinated by this. And I could not pry it out of her to save my soul. She went to the grave with all these secrets, and I still have no idea how what happened to half of them. And so I remember when I was little, I asked her, I said, Mormor, it's Swedish for grandma, Mormor, how do you keep all these secrets? She was so excited. She's like, it's simple. I hear it through this ear, and it goes to this ear, and it stops. I was like, that's it? She's like, yep, it goes from this ear to this ear, never hits my mouth, that's it. I was like, that's fascinating. That's so simple. Grandparents are the best, I love my grandparents. But mentors are just important, especially if you want to be an authentic leader. Mentors are a fantastic way to combat comparison. And the reason why is because they've been there and done that. And they've learned from their mistakes. And you can never underestimate the way that God will use someone to speak to you in your life. It could be a total stranger. It could be someone here in this room. And it could be someone that you've met that comes back into your life later on. And they're like, I want to share some wisdom with you. And another one that I think is really important are your parents. Please honor them. Please honor them. Take their advice. The reason why they're trying to offer guidance, even though I know times are different, they still parallel. And they love you. And as a parent, you don't want your kids to make the same decisions that you did that were probably a mistake. So they know if you're being held back by fear. I can't tell you how many times my mom would see if I was scared about something, she'd be like, go and do it. Go and do it. Even though I was nervous and I was scared. But then there's comparison in seasons. And I think this is fascinating because we all have different seasons of life. And there's comparison within the season of dream building, the season of mourning, and the season of celebration. But I want to focus on the season of waiting. Because it's a season that I think a lot of us really wrestle with in our instant gratification culture. And over the years, I found that the seasons of waiting, I now look forward to them because I understand them. And before, when I didn't, I didn't get it. But in the seasons of waiting, it challenges you to have this perspective of surrender. And I don't mean surrender as giving up. I mean surrender from the standpoint of literally removing the thought process and the illusion of control that you have control of every single little thing in your life, which is not true. If you have a why, you can endure anyhow. What do I mean by this? Don't compare your season of waiting with someone else's season of harvest. Don't compare your season of harvest to someone else's season of harvest. The one season that we spend on our knees praying that we'll get over with the quickest is the season of waiting, rather than taking advantage of it and working on yourself. My season of life in New York City was a lot different than my season of life when I lived in Puerto Rico, LA, and China. A lot different. I remember buying a one-way ticket, packing one suitcase. My mom was mortified, and she said, "Where are you going?" I said, "God needs me in New York City." And so many people were like, "Gosh, that city's so dark, so liberal, so dirty, so many atheists running around." And I said, exactly. I don't want to go somewhere where everyone thinks like me. Where I want to go somewhere where I am forced to live the convictions that are on my heart, or else I will literally be eaten alive, metaphorically, by the monsters that New York City has created. We are so quick to rush out of this season. In our culture today, we like to fluff words and sugarcoat the truth because we don't want to offend anyone. Exactly. But I didn't need or want my life to look like someone else's. I didn't. I never have. I wanted to look like how God intended it to look like. That's what I wanted. So as you combat comparison in the season of waiting, please do not confuse being still with being stagnant. There's a huge difference in those two words. Build in the season of waiting. If something has been planted in faith, do not dig it up with doubt. And another season of waiting that I know is really hard and difficult, and a lot of you are going through because a lot of you have talked to me about it, is the season of waiting for the one that God meant you to be with. I knew that when I was waiting, it was worth the wait, because I knew that I needed a leader who would guide me closer to God when the world pulled me away. I knew that I needed a leader who would protect my heart. I needed a leader who would celebrate my depth and not feel intimidated by it. I needed a leader who would rise to the occasion instead of questioning the incline. I needed a leader who was bold and committed and convicted. And I needed a leader and a type of man who could look at me and see me. And he would say, this is what matters. Everything else is just noise. God knew exactly the person that I was to be with. Not a minute too soon, not a minute too late. He gave me my Charlie at the right time. And when God had finished preparing our hearts for one another, that's when we crossed paths. So please get off the apps. It's my second point on that. Swim in a stream of significance. This is what I mean by that. When you get off the app, instead of using the app, why don't you do something you haven't really done before? For example, why don't you go serve at a soup kitchen? Why don't you go to church if you have not gone to church before? Why don't you try something different? Go get involved with something. I remember one night I went to poetry night in New York City. My roommates are like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm going to poetry night." "What are you going to do there?" "Listen to poetry." Like, I'm just going to go. I'm going to go and do something that is different. Occupying my time with activities that were fruitful and rewarding. And as you're doing your thing, prayerfully, and you're running your lane, you'll turn your head and the one will be right next to you. Right there. So don't feel like you're running out of time. Comparison steals your focus away from building during a season of waiting. Don't be focused on someone else's lawn. I know there's the analogy of looking over the hedge and seeing someone else's lawn and looking back at yours and seeing it completely die off until you realize that their lawn this whole time was AstroTurf and you've been so consumed with their lawn this whole time looking all pretty. But you guys have to realize that this is the day that the Lord has made, right? So rejoice and be glad in it, whether you like it or not. Whether you like the season you're in or not, take advantage of it, be glad in it. And finally, when you're waiting in your career and you're waiting for the breakthrough to come, plow through, keep moving. You're not the sum of your intentions, you're the sum of your actions. So keep on going. If you had a couple of losses, keep it moving. You had a couple of wins, keep it moving. Don't get into performance mode. When you're having to prove yourself, That's when you get stuck in this waiting mode and this rudder of feeling like nothing's working for you because you just continually perform. Your mind is a battleground. The enemy would love nothing more than to tie up your thoughts, to tie up your mind. And all of you in here, you're all so smart. You all have so much going for you. And I want you to realize and welcome yourself to the spiritual battle, because that's what you guys are experiencing right now. The reason why I say that is because Earth is nothing more than any enemy-occupied territory. That's what it is. And as you reclaim the territory, you better believe it, there's going to be a spiritual battle. And the more you build, the more battles come. People don't go after people who don't build. Why would they? They're not a threat. So you're given two hands. You're given one hand to build and one hand to battle. So as you build, you're going to keep coming up to battles. You're going to keep coming up to new threats. And you guys just got to keep fighting it off, praying through it, and getting through it. Stand firm and be courageous. Know that fears are born out of fatigue and loneliness. And please, please, please do not be easily offended. I know that when you get the little egg-sized Bitmoji thing, whatever it is on Twitter, the troll that's calling you bad names, calling you all these things, I get it. Valid. But you're accepting those offenses. That's why it's saying, I take offense to that, because you are taking the offense. You don't need to take it. Leave it. Walk back from it. And just take with you on your journey things that will actually be life-giving and fueling towards your building season instead of comparison. And the secret sauce to combat comparison in a season of waiting in your career is a combination of faith, wisdom, courage, and perseverance alongside with work. So take this window of time in your waiting season to really just work on yourself, to train, to reflect, write that book that you've always wanted to write, tweak that business plan if you have a business plan that you've been working on, write that email, send that thank you card. The time is now, especially during this season. So run your race, stop looking to your left or your right. There's a reason why you go from the basement to the presidential suite through the stairs. Because as you climb every stair and as you go through every level, you're going to learn something new that you need once you get to that top. If you take the elevator straight up, you're going to have the weight on your shoulders that you did not learn some of the lessons that you needed to learn in order to be the authentic leader that you needed to be. So make sure that you're okay with taking those stairs, one step at a time. You don't have to be rushing through it. And through seasonal transitions, when you're going through new seasons, go forward with a conquering spirit. Shift your disappointment into joy and change your complaints into laughter. Be humble and present in all your seasons and find ways to grow because you're constantly evolving. And I find that people who take well to constructive criticism aren't stubborn, and they're okay with putting aside their pride because they know that each person that they come across is a missing piece that God needs them to be a part of in their life. So just treat the janitor the same way you treat the CEO, because in God's eyes, they're both equal. They really are. So don't get distracted by the noise or temptations of everyday life. Make worthy plans, set worthy goals, and do not create your own season of waiting by having God, thinking in your mind that God needs to get behind your plans. That's not how it works. Don't create your own season. Have you, yourself, get behind God's plans for your life. He's not a magic genie. And there will be some days where you make absolutely terrible decisions and thank the good Lord for his double portion of grace, because we all know we need it. But it's how you handle it and you move forward. So live for today. Make the most of it. Because one day, it might be your last. And success is a journey, not a destination. And it doesn't look the same for everyone, so don't let comparison diminish the most beautiful thing of life. So in closing, I'll leave you with this story. It's one of my favorite stories. It's a story about a man who pursued truth when everyone else compared him to the standards of what they thought a life well lived looked like. And his name is William Borden. And he's not the heir to the Borden dairy family, if some of you guys are from the Midwest, but it's just as Same wealthy family, just different industries. For his high school graduation present, he was 16 years old, and his parents sent him on a trip around the world. Mind you, this was 1903. So he went around the world. He went through Asia, the Middle East, Europe, and on his trip, he felt this growing burden for the hurting people of the world. And so he loved to write. So he wrote home, and he was like, "Dear parents, my desire is to be a missionary." They were just short of everything but livid. They were so confused. Why would you throw your life away as a missionary? The whole family was confused by it. So in the back of his Bible, Borden wrote 2 words: no reserves. So then he went to college a few years later, Yale University, when that school was actually Christ-centered. And he was there for convocation, and the president was speaking. And as he was speaking, the students noticed something different about Borden. He was always writing in his journal. And when the president got up there, his topic was on the need of having a fixed purpose. And on the paper that Borden was writing, it said, "Say no to self and yes to Jesus every time." He continued writing, saying, "The president neglected to say what our purpose should be and where we should get that ability to persevere and the strength to resist temptations." So as he continued on, he went to Yale. From Yale, he went to Princeton Seminary in New Jersey, and he wrote 2 more words on the back of his Bible: no retreats. And when he decided to go to school, he was still inspired by the trip that he took when he was in high school around the world. It's just stuck with him. And after he graduated, he made the decision. He was going to go and work with the Muslim population in China. So his first stop was in Egypt because he needed to learn Arabic. So when he got there, and he told his parents he was leaving, when he got there, within a month, he contracted spinal meningitis. And 25-year-old William Borden passed away. And once that news carried back to the States, and it was cabled back to his family, there was a wave of sorrow, and people still were saying, "What a waste." All of that brilliance, all of that wealth, finally getting to where he needed to be, and this happens. But Borden's death was not a waste in God's eyes. It absolutely wasn't. As the story has it, prior to his death, Borden had written 2 more words in the back of his Bible. Underneath the words "no reserves, no retreats," he had written "no regrets." No reserves, no retreats, no regrets. If Borden would have spent the time comparing himself to other people, even just a little bit, and conformed his ways to the world that was around him, God wouldn't have been able to use him in the ways that would bring glory to his kingdom. So don't let comparison put out the Spirit's fire that's within you. Astonish a mean world with your acts of kindness, and proclaim the truth unapologetically. There's only one you. So stand firm in the culture of chaos. Continue to live each day with a grateful heart, knowing that although you might not be in control of every single little thing, you are deeply loved by the one who is. No reserves, no retreats, no regrets. God bless you guys.
We are excited to hear from TPUSA's female contributors.
What it do, baby boos? Cinnamon roll gang, where you at? That's what we like to hear. Oh, so many cinnamonies. Are y'all ready?
Ready, of course.
Are these not the most beautiful women you've ever seen?
Oh, y'all are sweet.
I am so blessed to work with every single one of these ladies at Turning Point USA. I have met the most amazing group of friends and women, my coworkers and girls that I've met at conferences at YWLS, when we go to SAS. And so I'm so excited for you to get to know all of them like I know them. And you're looking at some women here that have some of the biggest followings in the conservative movement, women that go on your favorite Fox shows, your favorite Newsmax shows, and that you love following on Instagram. And so how many people in this crowd right now are really interested in growing a social media based on a conservative brand? Quite a bit.
Love that.
That's fabulous. So we're going to answer some questions and get some advice and tips. This is definitely a panel that you want to have your notebooks out for, because they're going to give you some really, really good, valuable advice, not only for your personal social media accounts, but also if you are running a Turning Point USA chapter, or you're involved in any type of political social media account, or just any social media account that you want to grow. So first thing is, I'd like for you guys to introduce yourselves real quick and then say how you got involved with being a contributor for Turning Point USA. We'll start with you, Isabel.
Awesome. Hi, guys. How's everybody doing this morning? My name's Isabel Brown, and I am a member of this awesome Turning Point USA contributor team. But a couple of years ago, I got my start by being a random college student who got one of those sponsored Facebook ads for this very conference in 2017. I started a Turning Point chapter on my college campus, and things kind of took off from there because I fell so in love with this organization and the conservative movement. Today, I take on more of the traditional spokesperson role for this team for what all of you guys are doing in the field program, in your student government, and what's happening on campus. So I'm on national television and radio about 10 to 12 times a week talking about everything you guys are dealing with on the front lines of your college campus. And I recently came on board full-time as a Turning Point USA productions host. I wish I could tell you more about that right now, but it's still kind of under wraps. So stay tuned on what's coming for that.
Hello, ladies. Good morning. My name is Erin Elmore, and I got my start in politics accidentally because there was this little show back in the day when you guys were pretty young, and it was called The Apprentice. And I got picked to be on The Apprentice, so I got to know, have you guys heard of Donald Trump? I got to know the Trump family and now president, well, now my president, Donald Trump. The other guy, as Charlie said, yeah, whatever. You know, anyway. And from there, I have a degree in broadcasting and in law. So working in traditional media was a very good fit. So I've been on Fox, Newsmax, One America News. I'm going to be on Greg Gutfeld's show next week, I believe. So that's an exciting one. I'm pretty excited. Awesome. And I also saw something online a couple of years ago about Charlie Kirk and Turning Point. So I reached out to them and said, I want to work with you and for you. So you guys can do the same thing. Be proactive, reach out, get involved, and you can too be right here with us.
Hi guys, I am Jordan Rachel. I am a Turning Point USA contributor. I'm a conservative media personality and commentator. I'm an actress, I'm a producer, and I'm a real estate agent in the state of California. So I got started in politics when I was at the University of Arizona. Does anybody go to U of A? Bear down. So I noticed that the media was shaping the news instead of reporting it, and I noticed before Trump started really talking about it. So when I noticed that, I started talking about it on Twitter, and so I would expose kind of what really happened compared to how the media chose to report it. And my following grew pretty quickly, and Turning Point asked me to go to SAS in 2018, and ever since then I've been involved with Turning Point.
Well, thank you, Alex, for introducing all of us. You guys, I'm really excited to be here. My name's Morgan Zeggers. I became a member of the Turning Point team, the contributor team, in September, and I got started in politics because my dad's a colonel in the military. I've always just loved veterans advocacy, and I went to school for that at American University. And if you've heard me speak before, you've maybe heard about my communist roommate that I had. Yeah, so I moved into a house off campus, and I met her, walked right in, and we were getting along, but then I saw something on her wall. It was a poster of Mao Zedong, Lenin, Stalin, Karl Marx, and Fidel Castro. And she said, I'm a communist.
Oh my God.
And I, little Miss America, my dad's a colonel, served on 9/11, served overseas. I think I'm all cool, right? Thank you. I did not know what to say, though, when I met my first commie. And I was so disappointed in myself. Maybe you guys have been put in that situation. I mean, mass murderers and dictators on the wall, and then she's telling me we're gonna support the working class and achieve equality. I had no idea what to say. And so I started a nonprofit called Young Americans Against Socialism. Thank you. Jeez, you guys are so nice. I started that, and now I do speaking things on campus, and Turning Point reached out in September to ask me to kind of bring that history, economics angle to their contributor column. So thank you guys so much, and I'm excited to be here.
Hello, cute conservatives. How are y'all doing? My name is Kendall Jones, and I have a completely different story from all of these girls. I was not in politics. I did not know anything about politics when I got involved with Turning Point USA. I actually met Charlie Kirk at an NRA convention back in 2018. I was a speaker at their Hunters Leadership Forum there, and Charlie Kirk was sitting right in front of me, and Donald Trump Jr. was sitting there too. So the first time I ever gave a big speech was like right in front of Don Jr. and Charlie Kirk. So like, how nerve-wracking is that? And then afterwards, Charlie Kirk came up to me and he was like, hey, have you heard of Turning Point USA? What do you think about coming on and being a part of our organization? I was like, Charlie, I know nothing about politics. I am like not a political person. I am an outdoors person, hunting, like I'm in the woods. I am not dressed like a businesswoman at all any times. And he's like, perfect, that's exactly what we want. I'm like, what are you talking about? He was like, we want you to come and give a speech at YWLS in 2018. Were any of y'all there then? Woo! So some of y'all probably heard me give my first speech at that YWLS in 2018. So that's how I kind of came on and got involved. And then back in October, they asked me to come on and be a contributor on their live feed and talk about my perspective and bring my hunting and outdoors background into the live feed, talk about the laws and regulations. And obviously, I'm an advocate for the Second Amendment. And so kind of bring my take onto that feed and my background. So since then, I have gotten a little bit more involved in politics and learned a lot more than I would have ever imagined me getting into back then. So that's how I became on with Turning Point USA.
Awesome. All right, so we're just going to jump right into this because we don't have a ton of time on this panel. How would you guys describe your brand as a conservative influencer, and what the heck is a brand, and how do you discover that? So if you guys feel like you definitely want to answer, just start talking.
Yeah, I'll go first. So I just say that I commie fight, and when I give speeches, I say that I'm giving a commie fighting 101 lesson, and I really just teach people about the history of the left, the economics of the left, and the groups of the left, because we all meet like this, And the leftists meet like this too, and they say some really crazy stuff. And so exposing them is just so fun. And that idea of like conservative influencer, I don't know about that. What if I do want to like influence something? It's more so the core values, and I think that's what we all do. We don't necessarily want you to live like us or be like us. We just want you to have those core values rooted in conservatism and independence, being your own person. And just a little tip, I know we're kind of giving you guys advice. When I started doing commie fighting lessons of the day, I was getting like 1,500 followers a day from that, and it's because you're providing something to somebody, and they know that every day they can come to you and get that quick little 30-second lesson or whatever it is. And so that's really, you're providing value to someone's life, and I really have found success with that for sure.
Morgan, those commie fighting lessons of the day that you do, those are reels, right?
Yeah, reels.
Okay, so I just want to say, to piggyback on that, Reels are the #1 way right now in the Instagram algorithm to grow your accounts. That is just what they're promoting. So if you want to gain followers fast, start posting Reels, good ones. But those are working. Okay, so the news cycle is always changing, and we always get asked, well, where do you get your sources? How do I know where to go? What sources can I trust? Where do you guys go when you're really just wanting facts on how to fight the left? What sites and sources?
I have a few, because I think that is so valuable. First of all, don't use Google basically ever again. You're not going to get anything of value from Google. You can't even ask them what day of the week it is without getting propaganda. So I would say use DuckDuckGo to start. Because Google will just tell you that you have 13 genders and there is no God, so just
Today identifies as Monday, but it's not actually Monday.
Right. And Joe Biden is president forever and ever and ever and ever. So yes, so basically don't use Google, but sources like, and I think we can all jump in with like Epic Times is a really good one. Daily Wire, Daily Caller are a few places to start. And by the way, subscribe to all of these newsletters, because then your inbox gets flooded with nuggets throughout the day. And you'll see a little talking point, and when you'll start to see is the same topics come up, and you'll say, wait a minute, this must be important. I've now seen it 4 times. So then you can start doing your own research, and then you'll see data and statistics and facts in there that you can use. One of the things I like to talk about, because I have a background in communications and law, is effectively communicating. And we are targeted by the left so hard every day. And I think it's so important to remain composed. Don't roll your eyes. Don't get loud. You be more quiet and more demure and more ladylike and more classy as they get louder and crazier and more psychotic. And all of these newsletters that you're talking about will have facts, not feelings in them. You can say, well, according to the Department of Labor, 17 out of 20 states that have had the most job recovery are run by conservatives. That's a fact. And then you win the argument. So knowing those sources and knowing those facts is knowledge and power.
Most of us spend a lot of time every week prepping and understanding all of the headlines and everything happening in current events so that we can give 15-second sound bites on the news. So when it comes to really deep diving into a topic, those newsletters can be very, very helpful in understanding the broader overview of what's going on to then pick a topic and dive in. But if you're constantly trying to keep on top of what's happening, for lack of a better option, social media is a really great tool to understand all of that. I'm sure most of you are on Twitter. If you are, I'm sorry. We get it. It's horrible. We want to delete Twitter every single day, but it is a very valuable tool in when the news is breaking 15 minutes or 20 minutes before any of the major news publications can pick it up. If you're not following Breaking 911, hit follow today. They break all of the stories 30 minutes or so before the news outlet.
And there's also one called Wake Up Right. Excuse me, I'm getting hoarse from talking all weekend. Wake Up Right. Every day you get a newsletter in your inbox, and it's short and sweet and concise.
I love that one. Okay, so for all those girls that raised their hands and said, I'm really wanting to go into conservative media or build a brand online, what is the best way to do that, to start gaining a following and figure out that?
So I actually started on Twitter, so I can attest to breaking out in politics using social media. I would say just be very consistent with your posting tendencies. Always stay true to your values and beliefs. Sometimes it may seem like if you don't have a large following, you're not getting a lot of action, but you are making a difference in everything you say, and people are reading what you're writing. But also, you're going to get trolls that are going to come after you on virtually every single thing that you say, and they're going to want you to stop talking, but the only reason they're doing that is because you're effective and you're right, and they think you're a threat, and that's a good thing.
They want to scare you into silence. That's one thing that I've realized. They want to scare you into silence, so never back down.
But don't engage with them. You're above it.
Yeah.
Don't engage.
So speaking of trolls, dealing with those people that don't know you online is one thing. But what about the people that do know you in real life? I mean, like your friends, the people that you're in class with every single day, your coworkers who are trolling you in your Facebook comments and on Instagram and DMing you, responding to every story. And it's like you do care about this person and you have to see them every day in real life. So how do you guys deal with the trolls that you do care about that are people that mean something to you?
Erika just asked all of you if you'd lost friends within the last year or the last year and a half or so, and every single hand in this audience went up. We've all lost friends. We've all had family members stop talking to us because of the work that we do and come after us. I take a somewhat different approach than many people do with this. It's not an own the libs moment, but sort of a rise above moment.
On.
Because first and foremost, I'm not a conservative, I'm a Christian, and that's what I really base all of my content on. And as a Christian, I know that if I do the thing that the world does not want me to do every day, which is tell people the truth, I'm not going to have a million friends because of it. In fact, I'm actually going to be actively hated because of it. And people are going to persecute you and come after you and attack you, even the people that you think are in your corner, your friends and your family. Wear that like a badge of honor and consider that to be a sign you're walking in the right direction. If all of a sudden everybody loves you and loves everything you're saying, you're probably going in the wrong direction.
And you will lose friends, and that's okay, but it all sort of equalizes because look around you. This is a room of friends. You may have lost one that didn't have your same value system, but if you turn around here, you are with a bunch of young, inspired, proactive young women who feel pretty much the same way that you do. You can learn from them. You can grow from them. You can develop careers with them. These are the people that will be your friends.
Yes, and if you lose a friend because they don't have the same beliefs as you, are they really a true friend? Because I have a ton of people that don't believe in the same thing that I do and would never go hunting. But they're still my friend just because they don't do it. So I think you can be friends without having the same values or beliefs. We can agree to disagree and not attack someone else.
Yeah, let me tell you something. Kendall has asked me to go hunt with her so many times. I say no. Isabel's tried to get me to go camping.
We're working on it, okay?
And I say no, and we're still friends.
Wait, can we just take a minute to picture Alex Clark shooting a deer? Like, please.
I can see it.
And I kept saying, Kendall, can I please wear pink camo?
Yes.
And she kept going, no.
Why not? It's cute.
That's what I said.
Hey,
she said the deers will know. They'll see you.
If you will go out into the woods, if it takes you to wear pink camo and you'll come hunting with me,
I think this is a girls' trip. This is a girls' trip. Let's do it.
Okay,
I thought
so
we were supposed to go on a hog
Reels.
hunt.
A hog hunt. Let's do that.
Yeah. We talked about Reels and how those are doing really well. The algorithm really likes those right now. What other content performs the best for you? So there's stories, there's regular feed posts, graphic posts, family friend pictures, selfies. What is it?
Yeah, I see what performs best for me is whenever I'm truly my authentic self. If you are yourself out there and you put out what you believe in and even the struggles that you go through, people love whenever you are relatable. A lot of people see that through stories. So posting stories about just your everyday life, what's going on. Like, I woke up and I had 2 swollen eyes this morning. I'm like, great, I have to go and sit on a panel and I have 2 swollen eyes. Like, people can relate to that. Your life is not perfect. So even putting out the good times and the bad times out there, I think people will truly relate whenever you are as if you were a friend on social media. I always say, these are my friends on social media. They're not like my followers, they're my friends. So just being your truly authentic self has always worked for me.
That's great. And then 2 more questions. When you guys are burnout and you're in a creative burnout, you just have no idea what to post, how do you come up with new ideas? How do you get out of that creative slump?
I'll go. I mean, this kind of transforms into other conversations of like when you just don't want to do something. Like, I've just learned to not. I've learned to say no. I used to always be a yes person, a perfectionist. And instead, if I'm not in the mood to work out that day, I just simply won't. I just won't go.
Okay for me.
Same.
I just will not do it. And so same with that. If you need a break, you need a break. And kind of to touch on that last question, there's a study from Michigan State University that inspires me every day in the work that I do. And it says the most effective way to reach a young person with an opposing viewpoint or a really hard to understand topic like socialism or capitalism, economics, it's actually via peer, not via parent or professor. And so when we take that into what we all want to do, we all have social media accounts, I'm sure. No matter how many followers you have, we're talking peer to peer on that platform, and it's going to be the most effective communication tactic in the fight against the left. So just keep that in mind, and I hope that inspires you guys for sure.
That's super good. Thank you, Morgan. All right, this one is my favorite question. I wanted to ask, and I'll start with you, Isabel, because I know personally, just being one of my closest friends, that you've a great story about this. What is something in regards to the work that you guys have done, a moment where you felt like you really touched someone's life? They let you know that your work touched their life.
Oh, I love this question so much. I can think of so many examples, but there's one in particular that really stands out. This spring, I kicked off my spring speaking book tour at my alma mater at Colorado State University. And while I was there, I was talking about the experiences that I had with some really extreme adversity on my campus as one of our student activists. And when I was in student government, there was one person in particular who was actually my employee who was a registered communist voter. Like, he was literally registered to vote with the Communist Party. He believed the government should seize every gun in the United States of America. He wanted the government to control all means of production. And he probably thought I was like the Antichrist because I was so loud and proud about the things that I believed in. This person actually went so far as to send a text to a mutual friend of ours saying, Isabel is a Nazi. How many times do we have to see this over and over before we realize all Nazis deserve to be effing shot? This person sent a death threat about me to a mutual friend. And I'm back at my alma mater, back on campus giving this speech, and I see this guy walk in wearing a big old cowboy hat and a huge belt buckle and cowboy boots, and he strolls in with a copy of my book and puts it down on the table for me to sign it, and it's this guy. And he says, Isabel, first and foremost, I just have to say from the bottom of my heart, I am so sorry for everything that I said and did to you when we were students in college. I had no idea what I was talking about, and your grace and patience in continuing to stand up for the things that you believe in, even when people were hurling the most crazy, horrible things at you, made me stop and think, hang on a second. Do I really believe all these crazy things that I'm saying?
Wow. That's incredible.
And now, this same person says he's now a concealed carry permit holder. He owns over a dozen firearms, and he voted for the orange guy in November. So there you go.
All right, Kendall, take us out.
Yes. So one of my big things about being an advocate for the outdoors and hunting and fishing is just getting women and kids into the outdoors. I don't care if you don't want to go hunting, that's fine. I just want you to try and step out of your comfort zone, get outdoors and try something that you've never done before. And I have gotten tons of messages about, hey, I tried this for the first time, but it was actually at this conference, literally 2 days ago and last night, I met two girls, Emily and Anna. So I don't know if they are in the crowd right now, but one of them came up and told me that she got into archery for the first time. She just got her bow set up and she's going to the range. So that just makes my heart so happy. And then there was another girl here, and her parents were trying to get her to shoot a gun for like the past 2 years, and she has always been like, no, that's not my thing. I don't want to try it, which that is totally fine. And then she said that she found my social media account, and she had been following me, and it was whenever she started following me, saw what I was posting, saw what I believed in, that she started shooting a gun for the first time. She reached out to her parents and was like, okay, I'm ready. So that just truly makes my heart so happy.
Thank you guys so much. Hope you enjoyed hearing from some cinnamon rolls to some cinnamon rolls. Woo! We'll see you soon.
We are also having a gun panel, so come and check that out.
got bubbles this morning. Well, I'm glad y'all are here. Thank you, Charlie, for inviting me. As I was preparing for today, I was just thinking, none of us could have imagined in this last year how much change. Has anybody noticed some change in the last year? And how quickly and how intensely, probably since January, how the waves have been crashing on the beach. None of us could have imagined it. And as I was preparing today, I started thinking, what's the common thread? As women, we have this sense of urgency to do something. We see change, we don't like it, we're kind of fearful for the next generation. But what is that common thread? We all come from different backgrounds. We're coming from different states. We're coming from different religious backgrounds and everything else. So what is that common thread? And when I started thinking about it, the thing is we're fighting for freedom and we're fighting for truth. As women, we have this urgency, and those are the two things. We're fighting for freedom and we're fighting for truth. And as freedom lovers, I think that's a pretty common thing of all of us in the room, we can call ourselves. As freedom lovers, we believe this nation is the greatest nation the world has ever seen. Not because of military power and might, but because of the freedom that this country has represented. Because of the foundation. And you see our forefathers, and I love it because I'm preaching to the choir here, so I don't have to give you a history lesson on everything. But our forefathers feared God. You're like, well, what does that mean? That's kind of a weird term. What does it mean that they feared God? It means that they took God seriously, and they took his word seriously, and they looked to God. They looked to God for wisdom, for knowledge, and understanding. And here was America, and because of the generations before us, we have been granted that freedom that has been precious. And because we have valued freedom, we have been a light in this world. We have been, the leader among nations. That God's hand has truly been on this nation, and we have altered the courses of nation for the better. And no matter what cancel culture wants to say, because they want to destroy everything that is good, but that is the truth. Our founding fathers used this as the foundation for our nation. And America's always valued freedom, which is the reason we think of the Civil War and ending slavery here in the U.S. We think of how we partnered with other nations to defeat the Nazis. And I think of the wonderful speech of Ronald Reagan before the Berlin Wall, speaking to a communist leader saying, "Take down this wall." By the way, that was in 1987, which probably most in this room were not born, but today's the anniversary of that speech. But I think of recent years. I think of the prisoners that were brought back home from North Korea, those 3 men. I'll never forget their smiles when President Trump met them in the middle of the night on that airplane. I'll never forget that moment. And we think about how we facilitated peace in the Middle East. We have been a light in this world. We've been a city on the hill. And we think of women. Like, I don't have to go, once again, I love this crowd because I don't have to give a history lesson of the rights we have for women. It is precious. I go around the world, and you know how many women I meet that say, we pray for you. We pray for America because of the freedoms we have. If we lose the ability to speak freedom, if we lose our freedom, we've lost the ability to advocate for freedom around the world. And you think of the consequences that would be on humanity. It would be dire, but the women here, what simply means is we can grow up, we can dream anything, be anything we desire, and we can raise our little girls. I know I got a young crowd in here, so not many of you are moms. I have a little girl who's 8 years old. She can grow up and dream and be anything she wants. That's the freedom we have. But we know many in this world, many nations, and even sadly, many in this country hate America. And it's what if we were to drill down and look at everything, it goes back to the root is they hate the truth we've stood on, which is this. They hate it. They hate the light. They hate the freedom we represent. And the sad thing is we even have many on Capitol Hill who hate this country. They think every ism under the sun is where they're going to find freedom, whether it's communism, socialism, Marxism, all the isms that have proven over and over do not work in this world. They think they're going to find freedom. But it comes down to one simple thing. They reject it. They reject the freedom. And to you and to me and to all of us in this room, that seems like pure insanity. You've been given this gift of freedom, and they're going to reject it. I live in South Florida. Anybody from South? I also claim North Carolina as home and Alaska, the 3 places I claim home. Anybody from Alaska? Anybody? Sarah Palin's not here today, so anybody from Alaska? Awesome, okay. So those are the 3 places I claim home. But anyways, I live in South Florida most of the year, and I took my kids to the Everglades, and we went on an airboat ride a couple weeks ago. And there was like a petting zoo, because you know what? In Florida, we like to pet alligators. There was an alligator whisperer. And we'd go around this bend on this path, and there were these 2 cages. And there was a Siberian tiger. And I'm like, well, that's totally native to Florida. And there was this lion in this cage. And this is no Disney World Animal Kingdom here. These were these like small cages. And I looked at this lion, he's a magnificent creature. Here he had free health care, he had free housing, he had free food, but absolutely no freedom. He was stuck in this cage, he couldn't roam, and for a second I felt like a liberal. I'm like, free the animals out of here, this was horrible. There was no freedom, and we're living in a country that is rejecting freedom. And the greatest thing is our Constitution allows us to speak freely with freedom, grace, and truth. And there's that word again, truth. And in today's culture, truth is relative. Everybody's got their own truth, right? We live in this postmodern world, which means there's no absolute truth. You know, Democrats have their truth, Republicans have their truth. We both disagree with each other. So what is truth? And when I was 19 years old, I had to figure it out. I come from a family with a very famous last name, Graham, and but my truth couldn't be Billy Graham's truth. It couldn't be Franklin Graham's truth. I had to figure out what was my truth. And at 19 years old, let me tell you a story. I went to Liberty University. I knew there would be some of you here in the crowd. So I went to Liberty University. I actually grew up in public school my whole life and went to Liberty, which that was a cultural shock because, what, we're going to open in prayer at school? I couldn't imagine. So I had my whole plans. I was not going to get married at a young age. I was going to go work on Capitol Hill because thankfully Liberty is a very political school and I love it. And I just had all these plans. Well, all those plans came to a screeching halt when I fell in love with a very, very handsome football player from Appalachian State University. Anybody? Yeah, I didn't think anybody here was from Appalachian State. It's quite a liberal school. So I transferred. I ate all of my words. My plans just came crumbling down. Love took over. I was like Twitter-pated. So I went to my first class at Appalachian State, and the teacher's going around roll call, kind of getting to know us, and she stops at me and asks, she saw there was a transfer, and where did I transfer? I said, Liberty, and she goes, And she looks down her long nose and her glasses, and she goes, well then, Miss Liberty. She hated Jerry Falwell, Sr. at the time. She was from the Virginia Commonwealth. She hated Liberty University, and I knew at that moment I was in for quite an adventure because this lady did not like me, and she didn't even know my last name at the time, so I was like, oh, if she ever figured that out, we're in for a doozy. But in that moment, I had her class through a few times while I was there, and all her classes were open debate. And I had to learn, you know, my dad wasn't going to come in and save me in debate. I had to learn what I believed and why I believed it. So I could stand in truth and I could stand in grace. And that's so great about Turning Point USA. They're teaching you here to know what you believe and why you believe it so you can stand in the confidence in the world that is coming against you. But I had to figure out what my truth was. And let me ask you, what is truth to you? See, the 2 things you're not supposed to talk about in mixed company are politics and religion, the 2 things that I happen to love the most. And thankfully, Charlie asked me to share a little bit about my faith. I guess you can't have a Graham without talking about their faith. So let me ask you about what is truth to you? We have all asked that question at some point in our lives. Every person that's ever lived, every person that's ever existed has asked, what is truth? And we're fighting for truth, right? But what is it? Because Democrats think they have their truth, we think we have ours. And everybody's got their own truth. That's not true. There's one truth. There's a man in the Bible, let me tell you, his name was Pontius Pilate. He was the governor of Judea. If you don't know the story, let me tell you. He was the governor of Judea when Jesus was arrested. They brought Jesus before Pilate. Pilate had to make the decision. Was Jesus going to be crucified or was he going to set him free? And he's asking Jesus all these questions back and forth. And finally, at the end of it, he knew in his heart Jesus was innocent. He knew it. But he knew the crowds and the riots outside his window and outside his balcony, they were rising up. And he looked at Jesus. He looked at him straight in the eyes with a mocking voice. What is truth? He didn't realize he was looking into the eyes of truth. Because Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one can come to the Father but through me. But Pilate could hand him over to the demanding crowds, or he could set him free. And see, Pilate had to make a decision what to do with Jesus. And many of you, you're going to have to make a decision what to do with Jesus in your life. We're all going to come to that point and see, you're like, oh, I'll decide another day. That's making a decision. But see, Pilate, instead of standing for what he knew was right and standing for what was truth, he was afraid. He was afraid of the riots. He was afraid of the crowds. He was afraid he was going to lose his political power. So he compromises truth. He didn't want to lose his station. Does that sound familiar? Something else going over in Washington? Things don't change in 2,000 years. That's why this book right here, it will give you every answer to life you have. Y'all are young, whether it's about marriage, whether it's about finances, whether it's how to stand firm for this country, this nation that we love. These are all biblical issues. That's how I know this is truth, because the world hates it. If the world hates it, that's a pretty good sign that it might be the right thing. But how often are we like Pilate? Because we don't know truth in our heart that we can't stand. See, I love this crowd because you already know what it is to stand boldly. You already know what it's like to stand in your classroom and be the only conservative and the only Christian in your classroom. But if you think you need courage to be a conservative, you're going to have to be, as Isabel just said, courage for Jesus is a different level. And you're going to have to. And so you ask me, okay, Cissie, Pilate asked, what is truth? Well, tell me, what is truth? And for the sake of time, let me tell you, there's one God. God loves you. God loves you. He created you. He knit you before the foundations of the earth. He created you for a time such as this. Are we living in scary and difficult times? He created you for a purpose. And it's this time. He loved you. He loved you so much that he sent his son Jesus down on a cross for you. And here's the thing. We've sinned. Oh, this young generation, we don't like to talk about sin. That's a hard word. What is sin? Why does God give so many rules? Have you realized he loves you? He's given you laws to protect you, to keep you safe, to protect you. Just kind of like this nation, we have borders to keep us safe, which some people don't think we should have borders. He does all that to protect you, to keep you safe. But the truth is we have to repent. Oh, another word we don't like. This young generation, I'm a millennial, which actually in this room is kind of old. We don't like that word repent. That's a harsh word, dark word. Why would you use that word? It's actually a beautiful word because it gives you a fresh start, a new beginning. How many of you here want a new beginning? You've carried guilt, you've carried shame, you've carried many in here. I guarantee, even though we're in a conservative room, there's some of you in here that are guilty of murder. You're like, murder? Yes, I know that some of you have carried the burden of an abortion. But the thing is, there's nothing we can do to heaven. You're like, how's that good news? Because Jesus did it all. He died on the cross for you. He died on the cross for me. For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Yes, I, Cissie Graham, I don't get a free pass because my grandfather preached to millions around the world. I don't get a free pass because I'm Franklin Graham's daughter. I had to figure that out when I was 19 years old, sitting in a classroom when I was all alone as the only Christian in my room. Was I going to be able to stand for truth? Was God my God? And you're going to have to make a decision. And see, Jesus came to set you free. Free from everything that holds you captive, free from the insecurities, free from abandonment, free from the sexual sin that you've carried, free from everything. See, you see, Jesus says, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. In John 8, it says, Jesus said, if you abide in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. See, freedom and truth, they go together. Jesus Christ provides the ultimate freedom, the freedom for your soul. And here we are, we're fighting for truth, we're fighting for freedom. And if you follow him, he loves you. If you follow him, you will experience true freedom, freedom from bondage, freedom from fear, the freedom from anxiety. The greatest freedom ever provided was on the cross. When Jesus Christ stood and hung on a cross for the world to see, they mocked him. They mocked him, just like many of you have been mocked. And he surrendered his life. He gave up his life for you and for me to provide us ultimate freedom, freedom for our souls. See, in freedom and in true love, as God truly loves you, he gives you the freedom to choose. You can choose him or reject him, just like we're seeing in this country, people rejecting freedom, and that seems insanity to us. But here's a God, a holy God that loves you, each an individual that sits in a chair, and he says, I give you the freedom. Choose me or reject me, but I love you to give you a choice. See, he doesn't make us bow a knee to him, as we see so many organizations and so many movements in our culture making people bend a knee to their movement. God's not some master puppeteer who's pulling our strings up here. No, he loves you to give you freedom. Freedom to choose him, and you can choose him or reject him. And you'll have to choose. Is it the ultimate freedom? See, America freedom was purchased by blood, the blood of American soldier. Your freedom for your soul was purchased by the blood of Jesus. And you're like, why? Why bloodshed? Because freedom comes at a cost. And Jesus gave his life up, so it was nothing. It doesn't matter how much time you go to church. It doesn't matter if you grew up in a Christian home. It doesn't matter if you've been baptized as a younger. You have to make that decision that Jesus Christ is the Lord of your life. And I promise you, right now, we are not in the battle versus Democrat versus Republican, conservatism versus liberalism. We're not in the battle of woke versus unwoke. This is the epic battle of truth versus a lie. This is the power of hell versus heaven. And my prayer is that you would surrender your life. You would find ultimate freedom, freedom from your soul. Because that will be the greatest gift you ever receive. See, it's free. Just as this country gives freedom freely to you, you just have to accept it, not reject it. And I'm going to pray for you. And in my prayer today, because I am so proud, I'm so proud of this group of women who have courage to be out there speaking in their wherever God has placed you, in your schools, on your college campuses, in your business. But I'm going to pray. And in that prayer, if you choose to repeat, you want to surrender your life to God and say, God, provide me ultimate freedom for my soul and guide me, show me and direct me. And you know what's going to come at a cost? Talking about a cost being a conservative. Jesus said they will hate you because they hated me first. There is a cost, and it's going to get hard. For Christians, it will get hard. But it is the same in America, right? We're fighting for something because we believe in it. There is a cost, but you're going to gain so much more, the freedom for your soul. Let us pray. God, I am so thankful for this group of women. The women who you've made brave, you've made strong, you've created them with a purpose. And Lord, they're here. And Lord, I pray that you train up and you raise up a generation that will love you and that will fight for you, but they will ultimately fight for truth and they will fight for freedom. But if there's someone, a woman in this room that does not know you as your personal Savior, that you died for her, that you 3 days later you rose from the grave, you conquered death, you beat Satan, and that is our hope. Lord, I pray there's somebody in this room that needs to be set free from everything that holds them captive, the guilt, the shame, the sin, the bondage, whatever it is, that you will set them free. I pray that wherever they're sitting in this room, that you see them. I pray that they know that you love them and that they will repeat either out loud or in their heart this: God, I know that you're the one true God. I know that you love me. I know that you created me. Lord, I know that I have sinned against you. Come into my life. Forgive me. Guide my steps. Be the Lord of my life. And Lord, I thank you for your son, Jesus, who provides ultimate freedom through the cross. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. I was going to have a number set up to text, like a number where you could text me, because I do. If you prayed that prayer, I want you to know that God has wiped everything clean. You're white as snow, that you are a daughter of the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. And I want you to follow up with me. Find me somehow on social media. I'm out there. Find it. Send me a message, because I will send you something in the mail. I want to follow up with you and explain more if you have more questions. Thank you. God bless. Y'all are awesome.
Well, what is going on, Young Women's Leadership Conference? Are you guys having fun? Okay, well, it is great to be here today. My name is Joe Mitchell, and I'm a state representative from the great state of Iowa. Do we have any Iowa folks here? Go Hawks, right? So not only am I a state representative, I'm also the founder of Run Gen Z. So I don't know if you guys have heard of Run Gen Z. It's a great new organization that helps young people like you run for office. So our mission is to empower, recruit, and mentor the next generation of conservative leaders in America, which is you, to run for office. So today, we're going to have a breakout session, and to Miscela, which is the breakout room, at 1:15. We want each and every one of you guys to come to it. It's going to be a packed house, and Amber Mariano, who's my co-founder, is going to talk about the breakout session. I want you guys all to come.
Hello, everyone. How's it going? My name is Amber Mariano. I am a state representative from Florida. Any Floridians here? Much better turnout than Iowa. It's an honor to be here with you guys today. Run Gen Z is really looking at helping recruit you guys to run for office. Our breakout session is called Where is the Woman's Place? I think you all know the answer for that. It's in office, and we need you guys to come and listen to our stories so you guys can hopefully get inspired to put your name on the ballot. We have Kaylee Tuck here from Florida, another state representative. We have Claire from North Dakota, another state representative. And we have Roxy from Maryland, City Council, all young women that are in office and serving. So thank you guys for coming and spending your weekend here and learning about what's happening with Turning Point and what's happening with the conservative movement in the United States. And we need all of you to hopefully run for office, and if not, get involved as you are now and just continue to do everything you can to help this movement succeed. Thank you guys.
And in the words of Donald J. Trump, it's going to be huge. So see you guys at 1:15. Let's go.
Woo! Holy smokes, y'all look so good. And I'm on my second cup of coffee, so I'm a little like, yeah. Are you guys ready to have some fun? Okay, I'm from the South. My big hair has faded. I need y'all to get really loud. Are y'all ready to have some fun? Yes, that is what I'm talking about. I'm Kat Cammack, and I am the representative for the fourth? Maybe I need a third cup of coffee. The 3rd Congressional District of Florida. Holy smokes. Affectionately known as the Gator Nation. We have any Gators in here? I have a Gator right here in the front. What's your name? Annabelle? I'm gonna be looking at you all day. Nice. No, this is awesome. You wanna talk about girl power. This is freaking amazing. I am so pumped to be here with you guys because, let's be honest, who runs the world? I tried to get them to let me walk out to it, but they wouldn't. I was gonna go some like old school Beyonce. But I tell you, it is so amazing to be here with you guys. And since we're all friends, we're all ladies, you guys have to have my back, right? So you'll tell me if, my hair starts doing something crazy. You'll tell me if I have a booger in my nose. It has happened. And I gotta tell you, even though I'm from Florida, Texas is hot, right? It's hot. My hair was looking really good when I left the hotel room. It's kind of fallen. The Spanx are really tight, cutting off circulation. You guys know, you know what I'm talking about. We're gonna be honest with each other here. We're gonna talk about some real shit today, okay? And pretty soon, when my feet start hurting, I might just kick off my shoes. But no, this is the place where we can come together, support one another, have some really honest conversations, because quite frankly, listen, I'm in Washington, D.C. Nothing is real in Washington, D.C. Nothing. So I am so excited because, quite frankly, especially being here in Texas, we all know that the world could use a few more cowboys and cowgirls. I want to do something fun. Can y'all yeehaw with me? Like a yeehaw. All right, at the end, we're going to work on that. But this is incredible. You guys are doing something that I never did. You are so far ahead of me. And today, even though I am the youngest Republican woman in Congress today, I'm looking for my replacement. Who's that gonna be? Someone in this room is gonna stand next to me on January 3rd of 2023 and is gonna take my title, because that is what empowered women do. Empowered women support women, right? And I wanna talk a little bit about my story of how I got here to this stage, talking about Spanx and boogers in front of you. See, I never had politics as part of my life plan. It wasn't even on the radar. I was a rodeo queen, I was in 4-H, I showed chickens. I had a whole life plan, but it was when the government took our family cattle ranch and left us homeless for months. That's when I got pissed off. And I decided my life plan of taking over the family business and just having a life and a career and a family, all that I had planned out was out the window. And so with that anger, that motivation, I moved all the way across the country from Colorado to Florida, started working for a guy who was running for Congress because he hated government as much as I did. And I loved it because when I was leaving, my mom, she was so distraught. She was like, oh my gosh. And I said, Mom, it's gonna be okay. And she's like, but you know what? This is good. She's like, you've always had big dreams. And so my first takeaway for you here today, keep your dreams big, but your government small. Oh, big gov absolutely sucks. Big government sucks, and I know it because I lived it. Big government took everything from my family. Being homeless for 4.5 months, you get pissed off, you get angry, and you start asking questions like, why did this happen? How could this happen? But let me tell you, our country is so amazing, incredibly amazing, because only in America could someone like me, the daughter of a single mom, working class family, go from homeless to the House of Representatives in less than a decade. You know, and I just smiled really big, and there might be lipstick on my teeth, so y'all will help me out if that's the problem, right? All right, good. So, you see, government took everything. I get mad, go to Washington, get a guy who had never been in politics either. We get him elected. I go on to be the youngest chief of staff in Washington, D.C. at 23. And for the last 8 years, that's what I've been doing. I had been working for our district, working for North Central Florida, really working to start reining in this overreaching government. And when the time came, and my boss at the time said, hey, I'm gonna retire, I looked at my husband, who, by the way, is a super sexy firefighter. Super sexy firefighter and a SWAT medic. Can we give a shout out to our LEOs and our firefighters, our first responders? Yeah. Yes. We met in a grocery store. It was super cute. It was super cute. He was in uniform. Rest is history. Oh, and I gotta tell you guys this really funny story. So we met in a grocery store, and I thought I was a total badass. I gave him my business card. I was like, you're about to find out what you're getting into. So we got married. We don't have babies yet, but we have chickens and ducks and dogs, you know, cute things. And so we're making this decision. Do I run? Do I run? What do I do? I could go off and make money. I could start a business. I could do something. And he said, baby, do you want to raise babies in a socialist nation? And that was a hard and fast hell no. Hell no. And so we ran, and we ran because we had a passion for this country, just like you guys have a passion for your community, for your state, for our country. It is incredible what one person or a small group of people can do. Never doubt what a motivated, engaged, and passionate individual can do. Truly, anything. So fast forward, we take out the largest primary field in the state of Florida, 10 candidates, right? And we win. And I gotta tell you, it wasn't easy. My husband likes to say, honey, you have a lot of grit. Grit is my favorite word. Because when the shit gets really bad, and it gets bad sometimes, let's just be honest, you need that grit to keep going. You need that grit to keep you motivated and be scrappy and fight. But he's like, honey, you got a lot of grit, not a lot of grace. We gotta work on this. I'm really glad I didn't trip. And so I want to talk to you guys today about grit and grace. See, no one asked me to run. In fact, people discouraged it. They said, you should be at home taking care of your family. They said, you're too young. They said, you know, maybe you should just wait your turn. Let me tell you something. Lines and waiting your turn, that's for movie theaters and amusement parks. Waiting your turn is never, ever something you should do when you are passionate about it. So if you want to run for something, be it Congress, school board, House of Representatives, in your state, or your county commission, if you want to run and be a part of something, first, don't you ever ask permission. Ever. Ever. Because inevitably someone's going to tell you no, because they all have their own agenda. And the only agenda that we need to promote is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Am I right? So I got a lot of people tell me, you need to step back, you need to wait your turn, you need to do all these things, you need to be at home. And we all know, come on, ladies. Sure, our place is in the House and the Senate and the White House. Not what we got right now, but I'm telling you, you're gonna have so many people tell you no and give you reasons why you shouldn't and why you can't. You need to tell them to go kick rocks. I'm dead serious. Tell them to go kick rocks. Smile. I had a very well-respected man in our community. He didn't realize that he was talking to a friend of mine, and he said, oh, that poor little girl, she's running. She doesn't have a chance. We're gonna just wipe the floor with her, that poor little girl. And I'm a little bit sassy, so when he called me up to congratulate me on winning, I thought I was very graceful and gracious, but I also said, you know, being a poor little girl, who would have known? And it's that grit that you have to overcome. It is that type of mentality that is going to tell you no every single time, and you guys have to persevere. How many of you are either going to get a poli-sci degree, or you are a poli-sci major, or you graduated with a poli-sci major? Don't do that. I'm going to give you the best advice in the world. Don't do that. Don't do that, because politics has nothing to do with politics. Politics is managing and helping and advancing everything else. In our office, if you have a biology degree, a chemistry degree, a business degree, an economics degree, yes, English. Most of the people in Congress can't read or write. We need that. I'm telling you, these are the things that we're looking for. Strive to be an expert in a field that has nothing to do with political science, because inevitably 25% of what you do in that field is advocacy. Everything you do is advocacy and fighting for your industry, fighting for that issue. And it doesn't matter if it's cool or something that has been traditionally advocated for as a conservative. I was homeless. You know, when I got to Congress, I started talking to my colleagues about homelessness and poverty and why we, as conservatives, should be fighting for these issues. We have the best way to fix them, right? And they told me, you're new, calm down, sit down. We don't talk about those things. That's what the left talks about. So what did I do? I started talking about it on Fox News and pissed everybody off. I'm telling you, we have got to start talking about the things that the left thinks they own. They want to talk about the environment like they own it. I had Bill Nye the Science Guy 2 days ago tell me that we control the weather. What an idiot. They think that the left owns the issues like human trafficking or social justice things. What is that? What is that? No. We, as conservatives, believe in freedom. Freedom. And we have the best plans, policies to get people across the country, regardless of whatever box you check. We have the best means possible to get people to that very key word, freedom, because this country is about equal opportunity, not equal outcome. And you can see I'm getting all mad and fired up because I'm starting to sweat. No, I'm telling you guys, you have the best opportunity in the world to change our country for the better. You, in this room, are going to be the leaders that get us across the finish line, that give us that renaissance that we know that is coming. The left wants to play identity politics. They want to tell you that you're racist, that if you check a box, that's when you get certain programs. No. Equal opportunity, not equal outcome. That is what we're fighting for every single day. Every single day. And I want to leave you with this. Oh, Nancy Pelosi. I want to tell you a story about Nancy. I want to tell you a story about Nancy, because Nancy and I have a special relationship. You know, I'm married to a first responder, a sexy one. I have to say that. I got to say that. And when they wanted to defund the police, I got pissed. I tend to get upset a lot. But you know what? People in Washington, they don't get upset enough, right? So I decided I was going to take my husband's SWAT vest to Washington. Which, by the way, that's not easy to get through TSA. They have questions. They have questions. So I take my husband's SWAT vest down to the House floor. I'm getting ready to do 2 minutes. That's all I was allowed. 2 minutes to talk about why defunding the police was the most asinine BS thing in the world. And that's right, back the blue. We're going to end on that. We're going to end on that. And so I've got my husband's vest. I'm dragging it down there. It's heavy. And Sheila Jackson Lee's giving me the stank eye. And I'm like, it's all right. I get up there. I pick it up. I was like, this is going to be good. And this is going to piss Nancy Pelosi off. And I dropped it. Dropped it purposely so that the mic would go boom. Right? Like, I've never done that before. I'm glad that worked. And I proceeded to rail. And that speech, that 2 minutes, after they gavelled me down, basically kicked me off the floor. After that, 10 million patriots around this country took that video and shared it over and over and over and over and over again. And it was because of that that now the Senate is having one hell of a time trying to pass a bill that will defund our police, because hell no, we're not going to let them do that. Just like we're going to close down our borders, just like we're going to fight every single day for our Second Amendment, for life. There's so many things that we're going to be doing, and you guys are part of this army, this thin blue line army, this incredible army of Second Amendment defenders, total badasses. If you are a badass, can you give me a yeehaw? Y'all, I can say that. I'm from the South. Y'all, I'm so excited. I want you with me every step of the way. Share all the things that you are doing to improve your community. Share when there are videos of people out there trying to take critical life-saving equipment off of the backs of our LEOs. Share when people in your community tell you no, that you can't, because I will tell you every step of the way, I will be behind you saying, hell yes, you can. Thank you.
My goodness. Okay, first, can I just say the left could never do this, right? All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, I know it's Saturday morning. I'm extremely shocked that you're not more tired yet. There's so much energy in this room, but I think we could probably put some more into this room. So if you are a young woman in this room right now and you are having a blast at YWLS, stand up and scream and shout. Wow. All right, I want you to keep standing if this is your first time at YWLS. Wow. And keep standing if this is your first ever Turning Point USA conference or event in the conservative movement. Wow. Wow. All right, you can sit down. 4 years ago, this very weekend, in June of 2017, I was sitting in that crowd just like you are right now at my first ever event in the conservative movement. Around that time, I was a sophomore in college and I was being brutally persecuted after I recently decided to become outspoken about my conservative values in student government and on my college campus. I truly, and I kid you not, felt like I was the only conservative on a public school campus of over 30,000 people. And right around that time, I got a sponsored Facebook ad for this thing called the Young Women's Leadership Summit that looked really pink and purple and sparkly, but I didn't really know that much about it. And knowing virtually nothing about the event, I jumped on a plane to Dallas, Texas, and from moment one of YWLS 2017, I have fallen in love with Turning Point USA over and over again every day. I knew very little about what we do here, so if you're feeling that way this weekend, you are not alone. And embarrassingly, Charlie, if you're listening to this, I'm embarrassed to tell you this, I actually had to Google who the really young guy in the white sneakers who opened the conference was, named Charlie Kirk, so glad we've come a really long way since then. I was head over heels for Turning Point USA, though, and I have been all in on this organization ever since. Like many of you, I went back to my college campus that fall and started a TPUSA chapter. Are any of you guys involved in our chapters with the field program? I started a chapter on my college campus, and I was a student activist for 2 years with our organization before I transitioned into the social media, digital media, and public speaking side of things with our TPUSA family. And let me tell you, I have been through it all. Imagine the worst things that people can possibly say about you, and then double or triple it and add a few threats in there too. I've gotten the failing grades. I've lost all my friends at one point. I got the death threats. My address to my college apartment where I lived alone was posted online without my consent. I get it. I've been there. I've been through it all. But through that process, and even today, I continue to find so much joy in just fighting for the things that I believe in and standing for my values proudly in the face of such adversity. That is the very surface level version of my story, which you can read all about in my book Frontlines, which came out in February. And by the way, so many of you have been so supportive of my book launch. I am so grateful for all of you. I met many of you traversing back and forth across the country this spring. And I'm doing a book signing later this afternoon, so you can buy a copy, and please stop by. I would love to meet as many of you as possible. I really want to jump into what I want to talk to you about today, but first, I want you to know this. In 2017, where I was sitting exactly where you are sitting right now, never in my absolute craziest, wildest dreams would I ever have imagined I would be standing right here in 2021 in the role that I'm in today. Only in America does stuff like this get to happen. And these blessings that I've experienced are possible for every single one of you, too. So, with that being said, I really want to jump in. I want to talk about how the left is manipulating and using science as a weapon to completely erase who we are as women. The left, despite their repeated insistence that they are for women, has repeatedly shown their true colors over this last year, haven't they? They are determined to erase femininity and true womanhood from society the exact same way they've done it with men and masculinity. Before I jumped headfirst into this world of politics and working in the conservative movement and media every day, I dreamed of doing something dramatically different. My dream was actually to become a surgeon. Any pre-med students out there? A handful? Very small number in politics, I'll tell you what. And I've always loved science, ever since I was this big. Okay, I realize I'm not much bigger than this big. I grew up, but not up. But when I was a little girl, ever since then, I fell in love with science because I've always loved the pursuit of objective truth. I have loved understanding what is real
and what is fantasy, what we have proven to be true and what we know to be false. And obviously, who can forget those super sexy lab coats and goggles, am I right? That is what drove me, this love of science, to pursue my degree in biomedical sciences at Colorado State University, and then my master's degree in biomedical sciences, policy and advocacy at Georgetown University. A mouthful, but basically all you need to know is I'm a master of nerding out, okay? Today, though, and what I studied in school, science is not about the pursuit of objective truth. It's become about what's politically considered acceptable in modern society based on what the loudest voice, the left, deems to be correct on any given day. And this is especially true in 2021 as we constantly hear, "Follow the science," at every turn from our politicians and scientists alike. Science and politics are being used together today to manipulate reality into whatever the heck the left wants. And that includes directly attacking biological women and femininity. But here's the thing, it's not new, and it follows exactly the same pattern of behavior and attack that we saw on men for the last several years with the left. Who can remember the first time they were told masculinity was inherently toxic just because of the way it is? Yeah, lots of nodding heads. True manhood has been nearly erased from society thanks to that very powerful message from the left, thanks to the left's indoctrination. And ladies, we've all gone on dates. We talked a little bit about that with Erika this morning. We all know how bad that's gone, erasing masculinity from society, right? But today, masculinity is evil. And now, femininity is too. Maybe it's not toxic, but according to the left, it is exclusive. Apparently, having XX chromosomes and identifying as a biological woman is evil, because true femininity is exclusive to those who identify outside of the binary. Crazy, I know, but hang with me. This March, during the Women's History Month, leftist politicians, influencers, and A-list celebrities alike tried to completely redefine what actual womanhood is. Turns out, women is no longer spelled W-O-M-E-N. Women is spelled W-O-M-X-N, according to the left, to accommodate those who aren't biological women and fall outside of the gender binary. So, is every March just supposed to be People's History Month now? Is Women's History Month dead? Across the pond, in the United Kingdom, healthcare practitioners, doctors and nurses at a government-controlled National Health Service hospital are now forbidden, or they will likely lose their jobs, from using the words women or motherhood at a doctor's office. Instead, mother, as you've heard several times, thank you, it's crazy. As you've heard several times this weekend, mother has become birthing person, and the word, I love this, we hate the fake science, and the word breastfeeding is now, please bear with me because this is literally the grossest word that I've ever heard in my life, chest feeding. Ew. That doesn't even make any sense, right? It's insane. And now, our own government's federal budget proposal released this week also replaces the word mother with birthing person, following the lead of Planned Parenthood. More and more advocates today are calling to provide free tampons and menstrual products to people who menstruate. Do they mean women? I don't know. Also, now that I think about it, shouldn't the word menstruate be womanstrate? Amen and a women, am I right, ladies? We love that. The science of the left, and I'm using the word science as a very loose term here, okay, is the most backwards, upside down, regressive thinking on Earth. The left says that there are literally infinity genders. What is going on with this zim, zer, zippity doo dah day situation? I do not know. Every day it changes. The left says that fully grown biological men should be using the same bathroom as a little girl. They say that abortion is healthcare because it doesn't involve the loss of life. Because according to the left, a baby with a heartbeat in its mother's womb on Earth isn't considered life, but a single cell on Mars is. Alex Clark reminded us at the beginning of this conference that the left says fight like a girl, but they are completely comfortable putting you, a biological woman, in the same boxing ring as biological men, risking your lives to do it. They say, hey, put this thing on your face right after we told you not to, and stop asking if it works or not, because we really don't care. That medicine, hydroxychloroquine, oh yeah, you know, the one that we use to effectively treat other coronaviruses in the past? Cleveland Clinic says it may lead to a 200% higher chance of survival if you have COVID-19 and you're on a ventilator, but the orange guy and conservatives said it's good, so we're gonna go ahead and ban that. Oh, and by the way, if you're 18 to 29 years old, you have a literal 0.000369% chance, yes, I did the math, of dying from the virus that changed the world this last year. But we're mandating an experimental vaccine for you to set foot back on campus. What is that? The left says follow the science so intensely all the time. But they don't mean the scientific method, the thing that we all learned in the 4th grade and every single year after that, asking all the right questions, going after as many theories as possible, and then coming to a conclusion. They decide the conclusion up front, go back and find all the facts, data, and statistics to fit their narrative, and shame you and silence you if you even try to question it. Lord Farquaad, Dr. Fauci, says that if you question him, you deny science. Ironically, incredibly ironically, all of this is happening at the exact same time the left is insisting to their dying breath that women are systematically under attack because of our gender. I'm honestly still really confused if they're admitting that gender is real or not. So if you have the answer to that, I would really love to follow this mental gymnastics. That because of our biology, we make less money, we have less opportunity, and we are always being oppressed by men. I have a daily show with our Turning Point USA Productions department called Freedom Seeds, where every day in about a minute, I give you guys the facts, the metaphorical ammo, if you will, to go out and win America's culture war. So today, I wanted to give you your ammunition, the facts, to win this war on women and femininity and debunk the fake science the left is using to hold us back. I'm the nerdy science girl. Can you blame me? So pull out your notebooks, pull out your phone, do whatever you have to do to write this down, because these are facts that you're going to want to remember. And while you're doing that, I want to give you a little spoiler alert. Women are not under attack in America by anyone other than the left. In 1900, only 6% of women worked outside the home. Recently, for the second time in US history, women have actually surpassed men to make up the majority of the workforce. When we want jobs, we get jobs, because it turns out women are actually 16% more likely to be hired for any job that they've applied for. And if that job is more senior than our current job, so we're getting a promotion, that number actually goes up to 18%. Women are rapidly approaching the majority of college graduates in America, and if you're studying, gender studies or ethnic studies, that might not mean a lot, but importantly, we already make up the majority of graduates in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Love that for a science speech this morning. Women between the ages of 18 and 34 are the most likely demographic in America to become new gun owners today. And 56% of women in America own at least one semi-automatic pistol. Get this, we also lead men in concealed carry permits. We're not waiting for anybody else to protect us, and there's no victimization happening here. This one's important, so listen close. Women are not systematically oppressed under law, period. In 1963, not last Tuesday, not an hour ago, but in 1963, Congress passed the Equal Pay Act, which specifically mandates that women cannot earn less than their male counterparts at work based on their gender alone. And that persistent and horrible gender wage gap that the left loves to talk about all the freaking time, where we apparently only make 77 cents on the dollar for every man makes, it's debunked by every major study on the subject because it can be accounted for and it can be explained by the different choices women make in the workplace, what careers we go after, if we decide to have a family or work part-time or take some time off. But wait, there's even more. The Pregnancy Discrimination Act makes it illegal to discriminate against pregnant women in the workplace, and the Family Medical Leave Act says companies with 50 or more employees must allow for both men and women to take up to 12 weeks of family leave to care for their newborn or adopted child. Women actually own 40% of all businesses in the United States. During the last presidential administration, we had the most women serving in senior positions in the White House ever. And today, now, we have the highest number of women in Congress in all of U.S. history. The data and the evidence and the facts and statistics speak volumes. The evidence is right in front of us. So, following the actual scientific method, the conclusion is clear. Nothing in our culture or society is systematically holding women back simply because of our biology, except the narrative carefully created by the left. Here's the message that I really want you to remember more than anything else from this conference. You do not need anyone's, especially the left's, permission to succeed. You do not need anyone's pity to rise above your circumstances, and you do not need the government holding your hand. The only thing you need is you to live your American dream. You, as a woman, have been entrusted by God with special gifts, yes, as a biological woman, for the contribution that you can make to the world. The left wants you to feel held back by that. We at Turning Point USA and in this conservative movement want you to feel inspired, confident, and empowered because of that, because you were born to change the world. My amazing boss, mentor, and friend, Charlie Kirk, by the way, let's just thank him really quickly for all the work he's done with Turning Point USA. He reminded us yesterday of a very powerful reality, that the greatest weapon in the world is, in fact, the women of America. He's right, you know. Women have been entrusted with so much, but just one of these things is the gift of discernment, of hearing the truth and knowing it when we hear it, of living rooted in the truth each and every day, even in a world that has completely rejected the idea of truth. You may be sitting in this audience and be listening to this incredible lineup of speakers that we have for you this weekend and be thinking, I am so inspired by what all of these people are saying, but I could never do that. I could never know every fact and articulate it perfectly like Charlie Kirk. I could never be larger than life without ever drinking a cup of coffee like Alex Clark. And yes, that's actually true. She doesn't drink coffee. I could never be as poised as Kayleigh McEnany or have the most savage comebacks on earth like Candace Owens. I know those thoughts because I had those thoughts when I was sitting in those chairs as a student. But here's the thing. As I've transitioned into my role as a spokesperson for Turning Point USA, an author, and a public speaker is this. You don't need any of that. You only need one thing to make a major impact in this conservative movement and change the world. You just have to tell the truth. There is no secret formula to what people like me and every other person up on this stage do every day beyond that. And every single one of you has the tools to do exactly the same thing each and every day. Yeah, that's important. Ladies, we can't sit around anymore and just wait for someone else to sit in the driver's seat of American culture. And we need, not want, but we need each and every one of you to fight for our future and our culture on the front lines. Speaking of science, I can tell you from experience, having gone from what you guys are experiencing to standing up on this stage, none of this is rocket science. It all just starts with telling the truth to the people in your community, in your high school or college classroom, when you're at church, on social media, anywhere and everywhere. I say this all the time when I speak on college campuses, but having been a Turning Point USA student activist myself and now working full-time for the organization, especially in a very public way, I have learned and I believe that the impact you all have when you tell the truth to your communities and engage in this culture war is so much stronger than what anyone up here on this stage has. Those people might follow us, they might watch our daily shows on Instagram TV, they might see us on Newsmax or Fox News, but they don't know us. They don't sit next to us in class, they don't live with us in our dorm, they don't eat with us in the dining hall, they don't have Thanksgiving dinner with us around the family dinner table, they certainly don't go to church with us, but they do all of those things with you. And when you boldly stand for truth, they will feel inspired to do exactly the same thing. The greatest weapon in the world is the women of America. And we have the strongest tool in our arsenal to win America's culture war, the truth. We're in the fight for our lives, and we know that it's hard, but I can tell you this, if every single one of us fights on the front lines in this culture war, we will win. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Guys, how's it going? This is a huge group, the biggest YWLS that they have ever had. Last time I was here was 2019 when I was hosting it, and I was about to give birth on stage. I just gave birth to our second 6 weeks ago, and someone backstage was like, I feel like you're always pregnant. And I was like, yes, for the past 3 years, I have been pretty much continually pregnant. And so this is the first time in a long time that I'm not wearing sweatpants, which I feel like that's true for a lot of people, not just people who were pregnant, but for the past year, we've been rocking the elastic pretty hard. So I'm impressed by all of you who have decided to wear pants and a skirt and actually get dressed up. It takes a lot of effort, and you guys look great. I'm really, really happy to be here. This is my favorite conference. I do a lot of these conferences. I speak a lot of different places. I love SAS, but YWLS is by far the best conference that any political organization puts on. And so I'm just very glad to be here, and I'm glad that all of you are here. Isabel's talk was amazing. I think that my talk is going to be a good piggyback on top of that. And I've heard that you guys have talked a lot about kind of what we're going to talk about, but I hope to give you some unique takeaways and a unique perspective. I want to back up a little bit because there are so many different policies that I want to talk about, so many different news stories that have occurred over the past few weeks while I've been on maternity leave that I'm just bursting with things to talk about. But I want to kind of go back to the basics and go back to the foundations and just ask a really simple question. What is a woman? And because I have been continuously pregnant for the past 3 years, that's something that I've thought a lot about, and it's something that I've become very proud of in a way that I probably hadn't before, in a way that I probably hadn't thought about before, the uniqueness of a woman. Now, that probably seems, or it would have seemed even just a few years ago, like a ridiculous question. What is a woman? I think everyone knows what a woman is, but now that's a question that's very contentious. Isabel mentioned that. I'm sure other speakers have too. What is a woman? What is a definition of a woman? Now, there is literally half the country that cannot answer that question, that very basic question. Is it just a declaration? Is it a feeling? Is it pronouns in your bio? Is it just something that you identify as on any given day? Is it wearing a dress and heels? It's simultaneously a lot simpler than that, but it's also more complex than that. It's simpler than that, in the sense that our biology tells us what we are. This idea of our sex and our gender identity being separate, being independent, is actually not a scientific idea at all. It's a very mystical, mythical idea. And so it's very simple in that we know that we're women based on our biology, based on our DNA that was decided at the moment of conception. But it's also a little bit more complex than that. And before I explain that, let me just say something like really basic that I know it might even be controversial in this room. I don't know. But if we as conservatives are not willing to conserve the most fundamental, basic fact of life, the scientific difference between a male and a female, then the conservative movement has no business calling itself a conservative movement. If you are not conservative enough to conserve that, if you are not courageous enough to defend that, like I said, the most fundamental, basic fact of life, the most obvious fact of life, then you're not going to be courageous enough to defend the more controversial issues. So if conservatives can't conserve what it means to be a woman, then we have no business calling ourselves conservatives. Now, being a woman is also more complex than just our biology, just our chromosomes. We're more than what progressive postmodernists call us, whether it's cervix havers, whether it's menstruators, whether it's chest. I know you probably didn't think that you would hear cervix at this conference, but here we are. Chest feeders, menstruators, gestators, all of these very dehumanizing names that we are often called. We are individuals with a variety of personalities, but women have a lot in common. We are amazing nurturers. We are good cultivators. We're multitaskers. We're amazing communicators. We're good crisis managers. We will never be the same as men. We will never be as fast as men. We will never be as strong as men. You don't see a whole lot of women trying to compete against men in track. There's a reason for that it's only the other way around. We bring different things to the table. So what it means to be sisters, to be daughters, to be mothers is different than what it means to be brothers, sons, husbands, fathers. We're not made to be the same. And that's something to be celebrated, to be embraced. Femininity, womanhood is something to be celebrated, to be embraced. And yet, in most of the world, I think sometimes we don't realize this, that in most of the world it's not celebrated, it's not embraced. If you look at various countries in Asia, in the Middle East, in Africa, it's actually very dangerous to be a woman. Like we talk about oppression in the United States, I don't think that we realize that true oppression, even enslavement of women and children is happening around the world. The idea of a young women's leadership conference is paradoxical, is completely bizarre to the majority of the world. Like I don't think we realize how fortunate we are, how blessed we are to live in the United States of America, where it's not only that we're free to do that, but that it's celebrated, a young women's leadership conference. But we do have our own problems here, whether it's the radical gender ideology that is working toward the erasure of women, whether it's the brutal killing of girls inside the womb. Women are lied to. We're manipulated here, maybe in ways that we're not in other countries. And often we're lied to and manipulated by other women. Women who state that it's their mission to actually empower and uplift other women. Feminism has told us that in order to finally be empowered to overcome the patriarchal abuse that apparently has been malignant in the United States for all of our history, that we have to liberate ourselves. And liberation, we're told in the West, means aborting your child to take a life-sucking job that you don't even like. You may have been told that liberation means guilt-free promiscuity. You might have been told that female liberation and big government are somehow inextricably intertwined. Or you might have been told that we have to accept men being women to truly be liberated. Or you've probably heard this very pervasive lie that I don't actually think is necessarily just a liberal lie, but it's the reason why I wrote my book, You're Not Enough. And it's the lie that in order to be happy, in order to be fulfilled, that all you have to do in life is to love yourself, that the most important thing for you is to just feel good about yourself and to serve yourself and to do whatever makes you feel good, and to cut out anyone that doesn't serve you in your life. That's a lie. It's all nonsense. I promise you, you are not enough for you. You will not be fulfilled and satisfied and successful in life just by loving yourself. That's a vapid and superficial goal if that's the only or the paramount goal that you have. So we are lied to so often as women. I mean, it goes back to the Garden of Eden. Who did Satan first lie to? And what was the lie? How did it start? Did God really say? The same thing is happening to women today. We are susceptible to it. And we are susceptible to not just manipulation, but also to manipulating others. And what's fascinating is that some of the same people that are feeding us these lies that they say that they're doing in the name of empowerment are the very same people that are creating this toxic culture of what we talk about so often, which is cancel culture. And I've talked about this before, but something that I've noticed over the past few months is that the majority of these cancellations that we see, especially on Instagram, are championed by women. Like, women are often leading the charge against other women because someone isn't sufficiently anti-racist or someone isn't sufficiently culturally sensitive in a product they sell or a post that they publish or something like that. It is so often women that are canceling other women, and they say that it's because they're just trying to hold each other accountable. The reality is it's like we haven't graduated from high school. So we have no business talking about being oppressed by other men when we are oppressing each other. And I want to introduce, or probably not introduce, because I know that you guys are smart and you've thought about this and talked about this and heard about this before. But true liberation and empowerment is going to mean rejecting all of the lies that I just talked about. If you truly want to be free, if you truly want to be empowered, then you're going to have to be countercultural. You're going to have to swim upstream. What I talk about on my podcast, Relatable, being human salmon. You're going to have to go upstream because it's so easy to go downstream with the culture. And by doing that, you're going to have to, number one, appreciate the fact, embrace the fact that you are distinct from men. Like I said, you will never be as fast or as strong as a man. You will never bring everything to the table that a man does, and vice versa. So embrace your uniqueness as a woman and thank God for it. God did not make you accidentally. It is not happenstance that you were created a woman. You were not made arbitrarily. You were not made without purpose. It is not a coincidence. It is not serendipitous that you just happened to have the DNA that you do. God created you to be a woman, to have the special, unique purpose that you have, to have the ability, to have the talent, to have the strengths and weaknesses that you have that men don't, for a reason. Embrace that. Number two, reject what we just talked about, this idea of what I talk about in my book, Trendy Narcissism. Realize that you are not enough to fulfill you. Every Instagram influencer and their mom is telling you that you're enough, that you're perfect the way that you are, that you don't have any flaws, you don't have any failures, that you embrace all of the mistakes that you've ever made as just funny quirks that you don't need to feel bad about. Why don't you message those influencers and tell them that you voted for Donald Trump and see if they have the same message for you? Probably not. And my point is that these people don't know you. They don't know you. And I guarantee if they knew what you stood for, they wouldn't be telling you you're perfect as you are and never to change. And so don't take what they're saying as reality. Don't take it as truth. Don't get your confidence from what people are telling you on Instagram. They don't know you. They don't care about you. These pithy messages that are targeted to women to sell more workout programs don't mean anything. We're not perfect. We mess up all the time. And instead of wasting more time focusing on ourselves, which I promise that we do not have an epidemic of selflessness in this country. We don't need to waste more time just focusing on ourselves. We can spend more time focusing on finding joy and fulfillment from the only two things ultimately that are really going to satisfy us, and that is loving the Lord our God with all of our heart, mind, soul, and strength, and loving our neighbor as ourselves. That's it. That's it. And that doesn't mean that you hate yourself. That doesn't mean that I'm saying embrace self-loathing or self-deprecation, but I am saying, and that taking our eyes off of ourselves so constantly is actually going to give us so much of the joy and the fulfillment that we're trying and failing to find inside of ourselves. Number 3, give the same grace to other people that you want to be given yourself. I read a quote by C.S. Lewis, and it's always stuck with me, that we are so much quicker to give the benefit of the doubt to ourselves than we are to other people. When it comes to making mistakes ourselves or having character flaws, we excuse it away. We say, well, I have this in my past, or this person did something to me, or I didn't sleep well last night, or someone said something to me on social media I didn't like. So we excuse our bad behavior. We're never willing to do that to other people. So if you want to be countercultural, if you want to be liberated and empowered as a woman, feel free to give grace to other people that you want to be given yourself. That might not be popular, that might not get you a lot of followers, you might not go viral by that. Maybe you'll be like Chris Harrison and get fired from your job for saying that we should give grace to people, but it's worth it. I promise you it will free you from this truly toxic environment that I think women author so often, which is tearing each other down and saying that we care about one another. I can tell you that the most freeing time of my life, especially in this industry, I started, it was 2015, 6 years ago or something like that, maybe 5.5 years ago, when I realized that, you probably have heard this quote before, comparison is the thief of joy. When I realized that there was no one in the world, no matter their success, no matter what they do, that can possibly thwart God's plan for me. And that's true for you too. No one else's success can change what you do. It's not going to thwart, it's not going to mess up, it's not going to put an obstacle in front of whatever God has purposed you to do. I promise you, as long as you are focused on what other people think of you, what other people are doing, and whether or not you're doing better than someone else, you will stay miserable. So if you want to be liberated, if you want to be free from that toxic environment of tearing each other down, then realize that you don't have anyone to compare yourself to. And doing that is actually, it's actually showing that you don't trust the Lord and the path that he has created for you. So that's number 3, or number 4. No, that's number 3. I can count. Number 4, last one. If at all possible, which I know that you guys have heard about this over the past couple of days, I've been told, if at all possible, and I know it's not possible for everyone, if at all possible, get married and have children. As many children as you possibly can, as many children as the Lord will give you. Make this a priority in your life. Don't just let it happen to you. Make it a priority. Now, I'm not talking about making it an idol. I mean, marriage isn't everything. Of course, having kids is not everything. There are a million different ways to glorify God, and his plan will be his plan for you. But if you have anything to do with it, if it's possible, get married and have kids. Make it a priority. We've got a declining birth rate in this country. You guys have probably heard about that. I think it's supposed to be like 2.3, and our rate is like 1.8, which is really bad. So you can literally change the world by doing it with your husband. And so I can't recommend that. I cannot recommend that enough. And so I promise you, whether even if you become the President of the United States one day, there will be nothing more rewarding that you do than becoming a mom. Now, I'll be honest, and this is something that a lot of people probably won't tell you. When it comes to motherhood, you cannot have it all. It's not possible. You cannot have it all, really in life in general, but I have experience as a mom, as a working mom. You can't have it all. You can't be a full-time mom and work a full-time job. Like, something's gonna give. Push will come to shove. Now, if you can do both, do both. Thankfully, thank God, my family and I have managed a way for me to be able to balance both. And that's a question that you're gonna get a lot when you're a mom and you're trying to work. That's a question that men aren't asked, and that's okay, which is, how do you balance it all? And the truth is, it's really hard. A couple years ago, when I had our first baby, I took a big step back. And I don't know, most people probably don't notice that because I still have 4 podcast episodes that come out every week, but I stopped traveling as much. I stopped doing as many TV appearances, radio hits. I stopped doing as much as I used to do because I just didn't have time, and it was so important for me to prioritize being a mom and trying as best as I can to still balance this work that I feel called to. But I'm telling you right now, it's hard. And I am and was like a lot of you guys. I mean, you guys are probably very ambitious, very career oriented, and you might be sitting there thinking, I'm never going to stop working. I'm never going to feel the pull to be a stay-at-home mom. I cannot tell you how many friends have said the same thing. And then you get there, they lay that baby on your chest, and you've never felt the love that you feel in that moment, and you realize everything changes. Now, that doesn't mean that your work isn't important. I choose to still work, but this is my advice. My advice is for you, if you ever have to make the choice, if you can do both, do both. If you ever have to make the choice between your job and between motherhood, I am telling you, hands down, choose motherhood. I promise you that you will not regret it. And you'll know, as soon as you have that baby, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. You'll be like, oh, I remember Allie Stuckey saying that years ago, that when they lay that baby on your chest, you feel this tidal wave of love that you've never felt in your life. You would die 1,000 deaths for that child. All of a sudden, all the hopes and dreams and fears that you have for yourself are immediately, automatically transferred onto that person. And you know that you would do anything to make that little person happy, to make that little person fulfilled. And I'm telling you, that is worth every sacrifice that you make. And it does take sacrifice. You sacrifice your body in some ways. You sacrifice a lot of time. You might sacrifice money. You sacrifice your sanity some days. And it is absolutely worth it. That's one of the problems with the trendy narcissistic culture that we live in that preys upon women, telling you that sacrifice and inconvenience are things to be avoided. If you avoid sacrifice, selflessness, and inconvenience for your whole life, I promise you that you will end up old and sad and alone. So don't do it. Don't avoid those things. Embrace those things, especially when it comes to motherhood. It is the most amazing and gut-wrenching love and responsibility that you will ever have. And look, I know that not everyone in this room will become a mom, and you don't get second place if you don't become a mom. There are a million different ways to glorify God. A million different ways to glorify God. That doesn't make you less of a woman. It doesn't make you any less valuable, any less of an asset to this country or for our future. But if you have the option, if you have the ability to become a mom, do it. I love what this theologian, John Wesley, said. I learned more about Christianity from my mother than from all the theologians in England. A lot of you are wondering, and he lived in England, if you didn't catch that. A lot of you are wondering how you're going to make an impact on the future. A lot of you are wondering how you're going to make a difference. Like, what are you going to do? Are you going to start a podcast? Are you going to write a book? Are you going to lead a campaign? Are you going to be a politician? And maybe you'll do all of those things, and that's wonderful. Those are all ways to make a difference. But I promise you, you will never make a bigger difference on the future than raising little humans. That I promise you. So don't make your goal fame. You might become famous. Don't make your goal fame. Don't make your goal money. Don't make your goal beauty. All of those things are going to fade. Try to invest in the things that are going to last, living a substantive, selfless, meaningful life, making the small sphere, the spot of eternity on which God has placed you better. That is your goal in life. And I promise you, if that's what you pursue, you will find the joy and the fulfillment that you may be trying and failing to find in the right things. In the wrong things is what I meant to say. But thanks for not calling me out on that. Thank you guys so much for listening to this speech. I do have one more thing to say. So I don't know how else to say this, so it's a little bit awkward just to end my speech like this, but I have 7 of my books. I heard that they sold out here at a panel. So I have 7 of my books. You're not enough, and that's okay. And they're signed. And so I guess just the first 7 people to come see me out there can get a free book. I'll just give it to you for free. But that's all I have to say. Thank you guys so much for having me, and thank you for being here.
Please welcome to the stage Kendall Jones, Amy Robbins, Paige Rowe, and Jordan Rachel.
Some good stuff to talk with y'all about today. I am up here with some great friends, and they are a lot like me. They are some gun-loving, gun-toting women. Do I have any of y'all out there? Awesome. Well, one of my favorite things about being in this community and being surrounded by so many women that are so advocate about the Second Amendment, just like me, is that we all come from different backgrounds, and we all come from different reasons and journeys as to why we became so passionate about the Second Amendment. And they're all different. And so I want to give each of these girls the opportunity to tell their story. I have Amy Robbins right here. Paige Rowe, and Jordan Rachel. So my story about how I got into being an advocate for the Second Amendment is probably different than all of these girls. I grew up hunting, so I was always around like rifles and shooting guns with my dad and things like that. But when it came to pistols and handguns, I was completely terrified of them. I did not like shooting them. I was just not about it. And I really didn't understand why. They just, for some reason, were like scary to me. And I'm sure some of y'all can relate to that. But a couple of years ago, I actually got someone to help me start shooting pistols, and I can load them myself now. I am so confident in shooting, and it's just about getting out there and actually trying it for yourself. You're going to build that confidence whenever you get out there. So now I feel very confident in shooting any type of gun. So it's just about getting out there and actually trying it for yourself. So Amy, let us hear your story about why you are so passionate about the Second Amendment.
Thank you. And so I might have a very similar story to a lot of you. I grew up in the country. I grew up kind of like Kendall around a lot of firearms. So I grew up shooting from a very young age and always knew that the Second Amendment supported my family's right to defend and protect ourselves. But I didn't actually make it something that was a part of my life until I was much older. And so the Second Amendment and being an advocate for it actually happened when I was probably in my late 20s, and it stemmed from a personal need that I had. And so I actually was in the entertainment industry prior to what I'm currently doing now. And I was hosting TV shows, I was modeling, and I got cast to host a TV show for a little known organization called the NRA. Woo! Anyone ever heard of the NRA? And at that point, I really didn't know anything about firearms. We had just gotten one in my house. I always had to have my husband load that thing, those things and the thing, you know, the bullets and the magazine. I didn't know what I was talking about. I had no idea why I was being cast on this TV show. But that's where I started to learn about firearms, and I became safe and proficient with shooting them. And because of that, when I started training for a marathon in 2015, I had probably a similar experience to a lot of you runners and people that like to be outdoors, but I was out training for a marathon in an area that I was very comfortable with, always felt safe running there. And one day I was followed and harassed by a van full of about 7 men. And it was a very scary experience for me because at that point I did not carry any form of self-defense tool on my body. And even though I knew about them, I was safe with them, I still hadn't made it a personal decision in my life to carry a self-defense tool. And so that van drove off, and then they circled back around, and they came back and they did it again. And I had this moment, this epiphany, where I was like, oh my gosh, if this were to escalate beyond the catcalls, beyond the harassing comments, what am I going to do? As a woman, there's no way I am outrunning 7 men. There is no way I'm in a van. There's no way I am fighting off one of these guys, much less 7 of them. I knew they're bigger than me, they're stronger than me, and they're faster than me. And it was at that moment that all of my training and everything that I had been getting accustomed to with firearms kicked in. And I immediately went, I got my license to carry, and then I was so excited because I got a gun and I had my license, and then I'm like, where am I going to put it when I'm running? No big name athletic company had holsters in their leggings, and nothing was cute in the gun industry. So that's how I got the idea to start my company, Alexo Athletica. How many of you have heard of our company, Alexo? Oh, yay! That makes me so happy because it was at that moment that I realized that there is a lot of women out there that want to feel empowered by taking their personal protection into their own hands. They don't want to have to rely on somebody else to defend and protect them, even if that means calling the police. You know, the police could be minutes away when you need something in a matter of seconds. And so that's what led me on the journey to start this company, Alexo. And with doing that, we also wanted to create just this amazing community of empowered women that love their freedom, that love the Second Amendment, and love being able to be very, very independent when it came to being self-reliant and taking care of themselves. So that was really my journey. From then on, I was like, you know what? I truly believe that God has given me this mission field through this company to be a Second Amendment advocate, because that is the amendment that protects all of our other rights. And so, yeah, that's my journey.
Yes. Amy has actually become a dear friend of mine over the past couple of years, and she came out to my ranch not long ago, and she actually told me a very detailed story about how Alexo Athletica was born. We put it up on my YouTube channel, so if you want to learn more about that, go check out my YouTube and the story about Amy. But now we have Paige Rue, who also has a background in the gun industry. So tell us about how you got started and why you're so passionate about the Second Amendment.
My background is about as unique as it gets. I am from Phoenix, Arizona. And my father, when I was 2 years old, bought an indoor shooting range called Shooter's World. And now, hey, come see me. And now we are one of the largest indoor shooting ranges in the country. But at around 4 years old, I actually grew up in the shooting range. So we didn't go to daycare, my brother and I. We actually had a playroom at the top of the stairs or on the second floor of our shooting range. And my dad said, you're going to play up there, and if you get bored, as long as you're quiet, you can watch me sell guns. And ever since then, I was about 14 years old, fast forward, I was teaching classes. I was through our curriculum 2 or 3 times by this time. And I am now the training coordinator for our entire company. So I train all of our instructors. And we do have more female instructors than we do male instructors. I'm very proud of that. But I really got into the 2A community and just this movement because I thought everyone just had a gun, right? I grew up where there was always guns. I grew up in a business where whoever was coming in wanted a gun. I didn't know about this movement until I started instructing, and I was teaching all women's classes, and I had questions of how do I conceal as a female? How do I conceal a firearm as a female? What firearm works best for me? How do I load those things, right? And I didn't realize how empowering it is to shoot a firearm as a woman. And ever since then, I just had this overwhelming passion for firearms, and I want to train as many women as possible to feel empowered so that you can conceal on a run, so that you can. I have taught 4-year-olds up to 84-year-olds, no matter what size, no matter what shape, no matter what age. Oh my God, it's my passion, and I am meant to do this. So that's my background.
That's amazing. We also have Jordan Rachel here, who is a conservative media personality. She goes on Twitter and she just combats the left with facts about why our Constitution is so important. So why is it to you, Jordan, that the Second Amendment is so important in this journey?
So for me, is this on? So for me, I was born and raised in Washington State, and I currently live in Los Angeles, California right now.
Call me California.
So I am not so familiar with the actual gun industry itself, but I am very familiar with the constitutionality of the gun, and I am very familiar with the fact that the Second Amendment is the absolute most important amendment we have. It is more important than the First because it enforces the First. There's a debate there, but it's more important than the First, and it is the most important of all because it protects the rest. So I'm very passionate about the Second Amendment.
Without the Second Amendment, we wouldn't have free speech. So we hear things that why are gun rights women's rights? You hear that controversy all the time, but why is it so important for women to start shooting a gun and get into the gun world?
I am not naive to think that the narrative that you all are hearing right now is very, very different than what I grew up hearing. I mean, probably most of you on a daily basis are faced with hearing people have to tell you as a woman, like you're more likely to die if there is a gun in the house, and they want to strip you of the ability to learn how to safely use them and to be effective with them, and they want to make you feel like this gun, which is simply a tool, is a big, bad, scary thing. And to me, I think that's the antithesis of women's empowerment. I believe that we all in here have the ability, when we're equipped with a strong mind, with a strong body, and a strong set of skills, every single one of us in this room have the ability to be self-reliant. We just have to take the time to get the training and to learn how they operate. And for me, once I learned that, because I'm probably like a lot of you, I was very intimidated by the firearm when I first started down this journey, and it wasn't until I got my hands on the guns and I went to the range and I started working with amazing trainers that I felt so confident. And kind of like Paige was saying, it was one of the most empowering things I could ever do for myself, outside of my relationship with God, it is the most empowering thing in my life to know that I can take care of myself. I don't have to rely on somebody else to do it. And so it really is so important to me that we bring more women into the fold of this. And I know I have like probably 2 seconds to wrap this up, but I just wanted to say, like, we at Alexo, our mission with our company really is to continue to build this community. And so if you do not own a pair of Alexos yet, if all of you will take your phone out, I want to give you all a wonderful discount code. I want to give you a 50% off discount code, because I want to see every single one of you, even if you don't carry a firearm, I want to see all of you taking your protection into your own hands how you see fit. So our website is alexoathletica.com, and now through the end of this month, if you use code YWLS, you can use it on any of your purchases. So we're getting brand new stuff.
I was about to say she has a new summer line coming out, and I got some sneak peeks of it. And
yes, so you can check out the video on Kendall's YouTube page to see all the new stuff, but you can go shopping and get 50% off your purchase. And here's why. There's power in numbers, ladies. The more of us that start wearing these type of clothes and supporting businesses that support our rights and our freedoms, when we post about it on social media and we're not scared to say that I support this group because they support my rights, there's power in numbers that gives these politicians who are trying to strip us of our rights a message, and we're sending a strong message to them that says, do not touch our Second Amendment, because you're going to have to mess with every single lady in this room if you do.
You mess with the bull, you get the horns. Okay, Paige, I know we talked about this backstage, and me and Amy have talked about it before, but one of the most common questions we get asked as people who shoot guns, hey, I want to get into carrying a gun or shooting a pistol. What gun should I shoot? So I'll let you take it. I was about to start taking it, but I'll let you take it from there.
Oh my goodness. Has anyone been asked or told you should shoot this gun?
Yes.
Or, hey,
Yes.
I have this gun, you should go try it. From men most of the time, right? Yeah. So I will actually never answer this question for you. There are tons of women who message me on my Instagram. I'm some chick who shoots, or you can just look up my full name. All the time. Hey, I want to get into concealed carry. What gun should I get? Do you ask someone what kind of shoes you should get? No? You need to try it out yourself. You need to try what gun you want. What are you going to use it for? Right? There are different, just like shoes, right? What price point do you want? All these things you have to think about, and you have to go to the range, just like you were saying. You have to go to the range and try them out yourself, because what I like is going to be completely different, or what we like. We all carry different firearms. Are we right? Yeah. So you have to try the gun that works for you, because we are all going to be different. But you have to do that so that you can make that decision and you can feel confident with that decision. So please, when we leave today, if anyone tells you you need to try a specific gun because that's the gun that I like, tell them, like our speaker before, kick rocks and go try it out yourself.
Yes, I think taking suggestions is one thing.
Yes.
To go test it out, but don't go off and just buy something because someone told you to.
It's a huge commitment. Absolutely, yes. Take recommendations. I'll recommend 3 to 5. Try them out. You guys have a YouTube video on that as well. Definitely go check that out. Take recommendations, but you have to make that decision. You have to be empowered to make that decision.
For sure. Okay, Jordan. We said before that you live in Cammack, California. So I'm sure you get people asking or telling you all the time and bickering with you about anti-guns. So how would you approach someone to open that conversation, to get educated on it and go back to them about the people that are just anti-gun?
So I would say to really educate yourself on the historical and universal truths of disarmed populations. Bottom line, because it never ends well. And I talk a lot about the downfall of Venezuela, and I talk about how if the people were armed in Venezuela and they were never disarmed, I think it happened in 2013, they would not be, it wouldn't be as bad as it is right now. So I would really talk about the history and the facts that are there.
Yeah, always hit them with facts.
Yeah.
Okay, one last question before we start wrapping this up. But I know so many people that have never shot a gun before or that are scared of them. But they kind of are open to, you know, maybe I want to try this out. Maybe I want to get more knowledge on it. What advice would you give those girls that are still on the edge about it, that really don't know what they believe in yet, and how should they go about trying it for the first time?
I mean, it's a different journey for each of us up here. I mean, for me, it was really just getting my hands on a firearm. We lived out in the country, so my dad bought us guns for our Christmas presents, and I didn't know how they worked. I mean, I remember him getting me a revolver for one gun, and I really didn't like the grip. I didn't like how I had to hold a revolver, so I switched to a semi-automatic pistol. So he got me another one for Christmas, and it was really just a matter of getting out there and getting over that initial fear of the kickback, the sounds, just all the things that are really intimidating about a firearm. For me, it was even loading my own magazine was extremely intimidating because I didn't know which direction the bullet went in that case. And then I felt stupid, and then I didn't, you know, it was one of those things that I just wanted to put aside, and I didn't want to even do it anymore. But then once someone sat down with me, showed me how to do it, and I did it a few times, and then I could rack my own slide, I could hit the target, I was like, okay, this is awesome, and I could do it. So just
so empowering.
It was the only thing that got me over my fear, was to just go out and do it.
What about you, Paige? What do you think?
I absolutely agree. And what I always recommend is it's such an overwhelming experience, depending on if you're going outdoors or indoors. Like I said, I live on an indoor shooting range, so it's a lot louder and it's extremely overwhelming. And the women that come to me, I have to tell them that it's an overwhelming experience, because you also don't know your emotional background or what you've been through. And if you've been taken of your power and then you put a gun in your hands, I'll tell you right now, it puts that power back into you. And that is the most amazing experience to see and to have as yourself. So what I say is, it's an overwhelming topic if you don't know a lot about it, right? I mowed the lawn for the first time last year, and I thought the lawnmower was going to cut my toes off because I didn't know how to use it. I'm from Arizona, that's why. But with firearms, just go for the experience. Don't go with the intent of like, I have to know all these things and I have to be ready because I have to prepare myself, and I'm going to use this for my end goal is to use it for personal protection or home protection. Don't be overwhelmed by that. Go for the experience. Learn one thing at a time, and then come back to it, and then come back to it. And learn one thing every time that you go, or watch YouTube videos so you can gain knowledge while you're just scrolling through your phone. And that will empower you to feel more comfortable. And I promise you'll feel so much more comfortable with handling your personal protection tool.
And can I add one thing really fast too? I mean, it's really important that you have women that you can go to and talk to about all of this. And I will say that those of us up here on the stage, if you're not following us on social media yet, do. My personal page, and I'm pretty active on Instagram, is the Amy Robbins. And then our team is really responsive on our Alexo Athletica account as well. So if you have questions about this, DM myself, DM Kendall, DM Paige, Jordan, can we DM you about gun questions? And DM us, because we want to get back in touch with you and give you as much resources as we can, as much information as we possibly can. So make sure you're following all of us up here on the stage, and if you ever have questions, don't hesitate to reach out.
For sure. And one last thing before we end this panel and let y'all go get some lunch is, I want to say, don't be embarrassed to go out there for the first time, just because you may not know an absolute thing, and that is okay. No one expects you to be an expert in it. I was never an expert in it. I'm still not an expert in it. Those videos that I was talking about on YouTube, I'm actually going through my journey of concealed carrying and finding out what pistol fits me best. I still don't know what concealed carry gun I want to use. I know which ones I'm somewhat comfortable with, but I am still learning. I am nobody's expert, and no one expects you to be one either. So go out there, ask those questions. There's no dumb questions, trust me. I am the queen of like questions. I don't care. Like, I don't know the answer, it's fine. Just ask the questions. Yeah, just ask the questions. You aren't growing if you aren't asking and learning. And just be confident in that, and it's okay to not know. So thank you guys for coming out. And make sure to stop and say hi, grab a picture, ask us the gun questions. If we don't know that question or that answer, we will find an answer for you. So thank you guys. Enjoy.